Friday morning, yeah, it's been a long week. We finally made it. We are here. Very good morning to you. Johannesburg is a picture today, I can tell you that. Thank you for being with us. We'll be here until midday, Elvis. And today, well, we're looking at quite a few issues that really affect people's lives.
Father's Day was the day that conquered it all. OutSurance put out an advert even with all white males in the ad. And that's why we're here today to ask that question.
It's not the first. You see it all the time. You see it all the time in advertising in South Africa. It's a narrative that seems to perpetuate itself in a way. So we're talking about inherent racism, not racism, inherent racism. And that's furthering a narrative because of your own background. Is the advertising industry inherently racist, Kendall?
That's what we're asking all our viewers. 103 votes have come in already. 74% of those 103 votes say yes.
3/4 of our viewers who are watching now are saying, Freddie Whitehorn has an interesting view. He said, no, it's not inherently racist, it's inherently retarded. Wow.
Taking it back, Freddie Whitehorn, Bjorn Foster says, one person makes a dumb choice, most likely unintentional. Now, everyone is racist. Move on, says Bjorn.
We're not talking about racism, Bjorn. We're talking about inherent racism. It's something different.
Rawani Marumo also weighs in on this one, saying it's run by mostly white old men that tell black young kids what to produce. At the end of the day, the client says what they want.
Well, we'll hear from OutSurance what they have to say about that.
OutSurance, the advertising, the authority, and other stakeholders will talk to us in the first hour about that. But in the second hour today, we're dealing with this low-level civil war that's happening in our streets, Elvis.
Uber and meter taxi drivers, well, there's a fight going on there. It's a turf war, they say.
Shootings are now the order of the day. Beatings have been the order of the day for a while. So, Kendall, meter taxis, they come and they say, we don't want them in this country. They must leave this country, this Uber thing.
They want them to be banned. They want no more Uber on the streets of this country. And that's what we want to find out from you. What is your view on that stance that meter taxi operators have taken?
Can you even tell people to leave the country?
TK says, should checkers fight that Pick n Pay has better service and prices? Or should checkers improve to be on the level with their competitors? It's only an example, says TK.
Smart work there, TK. Smart work there.
Shafana also says it's not fair because everybody's working for their family.
That's the fact. Everyone's working for the family. And that's the flip side, I suppose, of the coin. Everybody wants a chance to earn a living. McRob says meter taxi drivers cannot handle competition in business. They must up their game and compete. Be innovative.
Yeah.
Yep, McRob, that would be the high road. But they say, no, we're taking the low road. We want to beat them. And we see the beatings are continuing. Talking about beatings that are going on, tomorrow Orlando Pirates will beat SuperSport United.
That's the question we're asking you today. Are you like Eben, and have you got an opinion on who will win the Nedbank
The
Cup?
black and white. I mean, the black and white. Kiona is coming home, Baba. Home. We're taking it home.
Well, this one from Siafana, he says it's going to be difficult, a difficult game rather, but SuperSport is going to win as the champs of this cup.
Siafana, I always thought that he's an intelligent man, but now I put the different views.
Somebody who agrees with Eben is Liberty Mugai. He says, Bucks all the way.
Bug. Pirates will win by 2-1. I agree with this man. 2-1, Baba. 2-1. That's what we are at. Yes, I'm in the black today, not in mourning, but in celebration for a great weekend for Orlando Pirates. It's going to be a great Friday. Let's get into our work here.
Well, we might see unhappy people, but let's leave it there.
In that case, I will be enjoying the Eid festivities on Monday.
The police in Tshwane continue to keep an eye on the situation in Mahube and Mamelodi east of Pretoria. Now this follows a standoff between the bonded homeowners and illegal land invaders living in nearby shacks. The Botswana nation is in mourning following the death of the former president Kutumile Masire. And Namibian struggle icon Andimba Toiva Yatoivo has been honored with a hero's funeral, which includes a memorial service today and a burial at Heroes Acre tomorrow. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports.
Elvis, you've been quite a lot. We're looking forward to a massive weekend, but, you know, running up to it, it's also been very busy.
Yeah.
The Confed Cup out in Russia. We've got cricket on the go on the weekend, box on the go, quite a lot.
Grass court tennis, couple of tournaments going on. It seems to be very busy, but, you know, it's European summer, obviously, and us Africans, we just have to tag along at the back of it. Isn't it always the case?
It always is the case. We're hoping that changes at some point, but, you know, let's not go down that road. Good morning to you. This is what we have for you in the sports today.
Purpose from the youngster. And a rash tackle.
Cameroon has 1 foot on the plane home after failing to capitalize on numerous scoring opportunities and a 1-0 halftime lead against a lucky Australia.
Milligan scores.
I've talked with so many people out in town and around the club, and everyone, please give us the cup, give us the cup, give us a trophy.
Orlando Pirates have one last chance to salvage some semblance of pride this season as they vie for silverware in the Nedbank Cup final against SuperSport United.
Ruan has trained really and worked really hard. He's played well during Super Rugby, and yet again in a combination with Malcolm Marx is an ideal time to give him an opportunity.
Premier coach Alistair Coetzee continues to reward form over reputation as he selects debutant Ruan Dreyer, making it 8 Lions in his starting 15. All this in more detail a little later on at about 10:40. Do stay with Elvis. He's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this morning. News just in. The police service and Tshwane Metro Police are keeping an eye on the situation in Mahube, Mamelodi, east of Pretoria. Now, this follows a standoff between bonded home owners and illegal land invaders living in nearby shacks. The High Court in Pretoria has interdicted the illegal land occupiers from destroying the city of Tshwane's infrastructure. The city of Tshwane approached the High Court after illegal land occupiers blocked the former residents from leaving their homes. Several homes and shacks were burned down during the standoff. Tshwane Mayor Solim Simanga, who visited the area, told the residents that the city is fast-tracking the process to evict the shack dwellers from the area. The Botswana nation is in mourning following the death of former President Kotomile Masire. Masire passed away last night, aged 91. Now, he was admitted to the intensive care unit in a Gaborone hospital over the weekend. He was the president of Botswana between 1980 and 1998. The South African High Commissioner to Botswana, Mdu Lembede, says Masire was instrumental in the fight against apartheid in South Africa by creating a passage for freedom fighters. Masire was the first vice president of Botswana who went on to lead the landlocked country, taking the baton from the first president, Seretse Khama. We'll bring you a full documentary a little later in the program. Staying with our neighbors, Namibian struggle icon Andimba Toivo has been honored with a hero's funeral, which includes a memorial service today and a burial at Heroes Acre tomorrow. Foreign dignitaries from Cuba, Zimbabwe and South Africa are among those expected to attend the events in Windhoek. The 92-year-old freedom fighter died earlier this month at his home in the capital city.
Well, flags are flying at half-mast at all public and private institutions, and the country's president, Hage Geingob, has also declared 3 days of national mourning in honor of the struggle icon. He's also been declared a national hero, which means he will be buried at Heroes Acre on Saturday. But here, plans are already underway for the memorial service, where hundreds of mourners are expected to be bussed in. Well, books of condolences have been opened at Namibian embassies around the world, signifying the kind of militant fighter that Toivo Yatoivo was. Well, he paid the price by spending 16 years at Robben Island with the likes of former President Nelson Mandela. And now Namibians are gearing themselves up for a send-off of a true revolutionary who refused to bend to white rule.
We lost a very good reader, and I hope his legacy will continue.
We are sad, but also we are comforted by his life. He gave his life for Namibia.
So as this country mourns, so does South Africa in its appreciation for the role that Toivo played in the attainment of democracy. Criselda Lewis, SABC News, in Windhoek.
A 5-member state customs union summit kicks off in Swaziland this morning. It follows a meeting held in Namibia in Windhoek a month ago. President Jacob Zuma is expected to deliver a keynote address. The outgoing Southern Africa Customs Union chairperson, King Mswati III, is expected to outline the way forward on their efforts to strengthen inter-trade relations among the member states.
It's all systems go for the 5th SACU Summit. South Africa, Namibia, Lesotho, Botswana and Swaziland are the 5 countries gathered in Mbabane for the Southern Africa Customs Union. At the top of SACU's agenda is the generation of funds to help boost these countries' economies, including cross-border trade.
We agree on promoting industry, we agree on cooperating on matters of negotiation of international trade. We agree that there's a need to review the revenue sharing formula. That's one of the pillars of work that has been agreed on.
More plans are in the pipeline to expand SACU's international relations.
Discussions with Britain as a result of the Brexit, and SACU has written and indicated that as SACU we want to engage with the United Kingdom on that, and we've received a positive response from them.
President Jacob Zuma arrived last night. He's due to deliver a keynote address. Botswana are next to chair SACU after Swaziland. Sibongile Mkani-Mpolweni, SABC News, Mbabane in Swaziland.
Now, that's the news for now, and we're asking you that question on our poll today, which is part of our theme. And the question there is the advertising industry inherently racist, Evan?
Yeah, we put in inherently racist because inherent racism, Elvis, is something different from racism as such. Racism is a very outward process, whereas inherent racism is furthering that narrative of stereotypes, that narratives of black men or colored men being gangsters and so forth. These kinds of stereotypes that we're talking about.
Which filter through into the advertising industry.
Absolutely. We've seen it with the OutSurance ad, and shortly you'll be talking to the CEO, Willem Roos, about that. But let's have a look what South Africans are tweeting us on this question, and I'm sure that it's got people divided and people have different views on it because it's a tough question. It's something that, again, it's a question that, depending on background, you get a different response. This one from the Big M, Michael Sitoli. He says, yes, especially when it comes to Nando's SA and insurance ads. Wow, interesting one.
Nazim Grootboom says, yes, most of these advertising agencies are owned by white people who have that tendency that black is black.
Well, Unati's. Lechasa tweets us today. He says, it was old apartheid style. We are in a democratic country. And I think you want to add that it has to change, Lechasa.
Gadani says, at the end of the day, it is the white economy that can afford all these things that are perpetually bombarding our TV sets.
Interesting.
View there from Gadani. Insurance company OutSurance has come under fire after posting a Father's Day advert featuring all white dads, apart from one on Twitter. The ad captures fun activities and cherishes moments between fathers and their children. And contrary to its Happy Father's Day to all amazing dads out there caption, the videos seem to have everything but black fathers. OutSurance has since taken the video down after an outpour of rage from social media users who slammed the video as not being reflective of the country's demographic, with the insinuation that black men are not good fathers. A previous ad featured a character called Dolores, a white man who has his face painted black, complete with a wig and braids, and dressed in drag to emulate a black woman. OutSurance CEO Willem Roos now joins us via Skype to discuss what they have done since the Father's Day outrage and ad. A very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Morning, Elvis. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
First and foremostly, just discuss with me the thinking behind the Father's Day advert.
Elvis, yes, I'd like to give you some context, and this is not to make an excuse. We have apologized profusely for our tweet, which clearly didn't reflect the demographics of South Africa. But just to tell you what happened is that it's one of our junior staff members in our social media team posted a link to a video. This video was not an OutSurance ad. It wasn't produced and scripted by us, and it didn't go through any of our normal approval processes. So clearly we have serious egg on our face. We made a big mistake. We immediately removed the tweet and apologized to all South Africans for the fact that the tweet didn't reflect the demographics of South Africa, of our client base, of our staff members. And like we said, we're extremely sorry for what happened.
Now, do you think that the measures that you've put in place will prevent this from happening again?
Absolutely. We made a very grave mistake by not treating our social media posts with the same rigor as we do all our other advertising, and we've certainly put measures in place to prevent this from happening, and now the long road to repair our reputation starts.
What are some of the rigors that you put your ads through in order to make sure that they are reflective of the South African society?
Absolutely. So any ad, print ad, billboard, television ad goes through a rigorous process. The creative ideas are pitched to our whole marketing team, then our marketing team approves it, it goes to our compliance team, and then finally it's signed off by our ExCo, our senior management team. And if you go back and look at all of our advertising, it's certainly been reflective of all the people in South Africa.
Well, talking about that, because Dolores, a white man who has his face painted black, that was another ad that created some controversy around that. Why was a black man or a black woman, for instance, not used in that particular ad to reflect the demographic of the country?
Absolutely. The ad you're referring to was withdrawn many years ago after we received some complaints. It was done by Ashley Taylor, who's a comedian. Ashley made fun of all walks of life in South Africa, from Afrikaners on the one hand to every race in South Africa, and I suppose we try to be humorous. The moment we received complaints, that ad was withdrawn, and as I mentioned, that was done many years ago.
Now, we have heard that you've lost some clients during the course of this outrage. How many clients have you lost thus far, and are you expecting to lose more?
Elvis, we have had some clients calling us to cancel. I'm not sure it adds to the debate to give you the exact number, but I suppose it's relatively small. What's more important for me is that the majority of clients who wanted to cancel after we've explained the situation and, more importantly, apologize. I apologize personally and wrote to all of those clients. Most of them decided to stay with OutSurance. But the fact remains is, even if we've received one cancellation due to what we've done, that's one too many, and we can only apologize to our clients.
Mm-hmm. Looking at the ad, one would think that there is a bias towards a particular race group in South Africa in relation to your target audience. Is that the case or not?
Certainly not the case, Elvis. You can go and have a look at all our other advertising. It reflects the demographics of South Africa. Our client base reflects the demographics of South Africa, and our staff reflects the demographics of South Africa. So, once again, a really unfortunate incident.
What is going to happen to the junior staff member that committed this omission in relation to the rigorous, the rigorous process that you would use in order to put an ad out?
Elvis, absolutely nothing is going to happen to the junior staff member. I don't think it would be at all appropriate to take action against that person. It was a mistake without ill intent. Sure, the person, I think, needs to get some diversity training, and that goes for the rest of our marketing team, where I do think disciplinary procedures, internal disciplinary procedures would be appropriate for the more senior people because we didn't have these processes in place, and that extends right up to myself.
The ad agency that supplied you with the ideas behind your OutSurance ads, are they transformed in a sense, and do you believe that they perhaps inherently racist in terms of the ads that was produced for OutSurance before, like the blackface?
We use a variety of ad agencies, not a single one. And as I said, all our advertising reflects the demographics of South Africa. The blackface ad you're referring to, that was a skit done by Ashley Taylor. It was just not an ad agency as such. And like I said, we've removed that ad many years ago.
Mm-hmm. Moving forward, Mr. Ruiz, the remedies to make sure that OutSurance stays within the boundaries of reflecting the South African society, what are you going to do?
Like I said, Elvis, we're going to put far more rigorous processes in place when it comes to our social media posts. Our staff already reflects the diversity in South Africa, and the processes we have in place for our other advertising, I think, is certainly robust enough to make sure that we don't make this mistake again. The major thing we're working on is to making sure that our social media efforts is done in the correct way.
Mr. Ruiz, thank you so much for your time and joining us.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Now that was the OutSurance CEO, Willem Ruiz, joining us on the line, talking to us about that controversial ad that was released on social media.
Yeah, it was controversial indeed. We'll speak to the speak to Leon Grobler. He's here with us. He's waiting for me to do the interview. He is the dispute resolution manager at the ASA. They are the people that deal with these kinds of disputes, and I'll talk to him after the break. But first, let's just go through, well, our normal work here on the Newsroom show. Let's have a look at what are the hashtags that you should be looking out for. Of course, the secret ballot, that's where we start, and I suppose that's what everybody stopped at yesterday. Justice Mogoeng, yeah, the Chief Justice, he handed the ball back to the National Assembly Speaker, Baleka Mbete, to pass the judgment on whether or not there will be a secret ballot. Now, the public, they're creating plenty of memes, as you can imagine, as they wait for an official decision to be made on a secret ballot. And most of them, of course, around the Speaker in Parliament. On a serious note, 3 struggle icons in the Southern African region have passed away this week. South African apartheid struggle veteran K. Munsami has died at the age of 91. The hashtag is K. Munsami that you can go and interact with. Then in Botswana, the nation is in mourning following the death of former President Sir Ketumile Masire. That's the hashtag you should also have a look at. Then in Namibia, Andimba Toivo Ya Toivo has been honored with a hero's funeral, which includes a memorial service later today, as well as burial at the Heroes Acre tomorrow. Hashtag Toivo is, you saw Crisalda Lewis is there. She'll give us updates throughout the day from the ceremony of Ya Toivo. Then we move abroad. In Syria, some incredible images were captured in Durban of people having a meal for Ramadan iftar. Yeah, in the end, it's the simple things that make us human, like breaking bread together, sharing a meal. Of course, this weekend, the month of Ramadan will come to an end, and it looks like on Monday we'll have the festival. Eid will be celebrated on Monday here in South Africa and around the world. Let's take a look now at our picture of the day. This one comes from Project TV, and it's caused a lot of consternation. Why? I simply do not know. Senator Larissa Waters, well, she's made history again as the first woman to breastfeed while passing a motion in the Senate. That happened in Australia. It caused a lot of unhappiness. I don't know why. It's just a normal thing, isn't it? Feeding a baby when a child is hungry, you feed it. Isn't that how it is? I wonder if they would allow me to, if I could, to breastfeed on TV. I think it's a normal thing. We shouldn't make too much of these things. It's just normal bodily functions. Anyhow, let's look at our comment of the day. This one from Nisham Balton, who's at the Nelson Mandela Foundation, of course, and the Kathrada Foundation, rather, sends their sincere condolences to the family, friends and comrades of struggle veteran K. Munsami. Passed away this week, 91 years old, made a wonderful contribution to our freedom today. Some say a freedom that at times we take for granted very much here in South Africa. Now, let's take a look at what's happening in the courts. We'll start in the Western Cape, where the National Prosecuting Authority is expected to appeal the suspended sentence of child sex offender Andre Pietus Retief in the Cape High Court. Yeah, this was a shocker for some. Retief, who was convicted 2 years ago on more than 2,000 offences relating to child pornography. He was sentenced to 8 years imprisonment, suspended for 5 years. Now, the NPA spokesperson, Eric Ntabazazila, says the sentence is disturbingly inappropriate and shockingly light. Among Retief's victims were young girls aged between 6 and 9. He was found in possession of a vast number of child abuse images, and he's not going to spend a day in prison. Think about that. Still in the Western Cape, in one of South Africa's biggest drug busts, earlier this week, police seized more than 250 boxes of cocaine worth around 300 million rand on a farm in the Overberg near the small little town of Verliesdorp. Those of you who don't know it, next to Grabo. It was apparently destined for overseas markets. We're told one of the 3 suspects arrested in connection with the bust is a foreigner from the Netherlands. He will appear in the Caledon Magistrates Court. Then, moving further afield, in Kimberley, a 51-year-old man is expected to appear in the Kimberley Magistrates Court for the alleged rape of a 68-year-old woman. She was allegedly raped by her neighbour while her 2 young children were asleep next to her in the same bed. The pensioner was treated at a local healthcare facility after suffering a prolapsed womb following the rape. The pensioner now needs to undergo an operation to recover from these injuries. We'll keep you up to date on this and other matters before the court. If you're watching Newsroom, we'll come back and we'll talk about, well, racism and inherent racism in advertising in South Africa. And we've got Leon Grobler with us. He's the right man to put us in the loop. Don't miss it. Welcome back here with Newsroom on SABC News. Now, brands often face backlash from communities for adverts which are in poor taste. From Pepsi, that was criticised for trivialising the Black Lives Don't Matter movement in their advert that starred Kendall Jenner, to BIC, whose adverts have been branded outwardly sexist. Nivea, whose tagline, "White is purity," was not at all well received. Now, the public's quick to respond to adverts they consider racially based or just not right. Shea Moisture's situation was a little bit different. The brand was slammed for including white women in its advert, as the brand is seen as generally targeting black women only, and was accused by many of selling out from its core audience while trying to broaden its customer base. So what does a person do if they feel offended by an advert? The Advertising Standards Authority of South Africa is an independent body set up by the marketing and communications industry to ensure that its system for self-regulation works in your interest, that's the public. Now, Leon Grobler is the Dispute Resolution Manager at ASA, and he's with us in studio. Very good morning, Leon. Thanks for coming.
Welcome, Evan. Thank you.
It must have been an interesting week because of this hullabaloo that's gone on. But it's not any different, I would think, from what happens a lot in South Africa, is it?
It's not novel, no. But to put it into perspective, because we're a reactive organization, we have to deal with complaints when there's a complaint on it. And with this one, OutSurance was proactively reactive, if that's the right term, in pulling the advert before it even came to our doorstep.
Just how do you deal, generally speaking, with these kind of complaints that when they're reported to you?
Look, effectively, it's a process that we have to follow every single time. So we get a complaint in writing, we send it to the advertiser for comment, they give us their response, and then we make an adjudication on it. So it's a process of deliberation, looking at precedents, looking at the rules of the code that we enforce, etc. But every single complaint gets serious attention. We assess it, make sure that there's validity, and then if it warrants the investigation, we'll take it forward.
What is likely to happen with this specific case, then, the OutSurance case?
Look, in this case, you have to keep in mind the purpose of self-regulation for advertising, at least, is to remove the advert that's offensive.
Yeah.
So in this case, they've preempted it by taking it away. So most likely, if we were to get complaints, I don't know if there'd be any real purpose in an investigation because the job has been done already for us.
Yeah.
But what happens generally when there's an outcry over advertising, whether it's over offence or anything other for that matter, we'll follow the due process and then issue a ruling. And the ruling is a public document, and it'll instruct the advertiser to remove or amend or whatever the decision might be.
We now live in the social media age. Things are a little bit different. The rules of engagement are a little bit different. This video was shared on social media. How does that affect your jurisdiction when it comes to dealing with these kind of complaints or basically just dealing with this kind of scourge in general?
Look, we have to keep up with the times. I think social media poses a new challenge for us, as it most likely did for most people as well.
Yeah.
We have to look at our enforcement procedures, our jurisdiction as well, getting buy-in from representative media bodies. For example, if there was a television advert, we have enforcement segue into there because of the National Association of Broadcasters. They can help us enforce. So social media, we also need to get the support from social media. And take it forward in that respect. So it's something we have to be cognizant of. We can't just stick to the norm and forget that social media moves at lightning pace compared to everything else.
Now, of course, this was what caused the stir, the imagery of this kind of thing. But I want to find out from you, what's the majority of claims that you guys get? Is it around racism or what's the majority? What's the sort of the bigger complaint?
Interestingly, no. It's a more generic sort of misleading disputes.
Is it?
Where the claims are substantiated. Offensive is up there, but it's not always based on race. You know, there can be religious offence, sexual discrimination, those kind of complaints as well. So it's not the vast majority of our complaints. It's generally whether or not the claims are true, whether I bought a product that said it can do one thing and it can't actually do that thing. Those are the majority of the issues we deal with.
Oh, that's just my phone. I'm trying to do an interactive show where the phone just beep. But we're running a poll. I wanted to ask you this because this is the question that we're asking our viewers, and the numbers that come in normally give us an idea how South Africans are thinking. Now, we're talking about inherent racism today, and of course that's not racism as we know it. Inherent racism is this kind of thing, furthering the narrative that, you know, white fathers are good and black fathers are bad. Inherent racism would be that coloured men are criminals and black women are fat and those sorts of narratives. So we're running this poll. Guys, do we have the poll?
I saw it.
Just waiting. There we go. Yeah, I just want to check the numbers for you. And we ask, is the advertising industry inherently racist? Now, I mean, you are working in this space and you're the expert. The perception of 3/4 of the viewers are saying, yes, it is. Firstly, tell me, how do you view the perception that's out there? And secondly, if you can maybe answer the question from an expert point of view.
Well, on the first question, it's nice to see the public have the same concern that we do in the sense of deciding whether it's inherent or not. We often grapple with this issue. Are they perpetuating a stereotype or are they depicting a slice of life? And that sometimes is a difficult call to make because you could comment in a way to try and celebrate the differences, and it turns out to be interpreted as sort of vilifying what the scenario is out there.
Yeah.
In terms of answering the question, it's a difficult thing. Keep in mind, we only deal with the complaints that we receive. So I can't really comment on the industry as such because we deal with the bad aspects that elicit complaints. You have to put into perspective, there are hundreds of thousands of ads that go out that don't elicit complaints, that don't warrant a response, really. So it's tough for me to put it into perspective.
And that's, I think, in the end, that kind of contextualizes the whole thing, is that the one that stands out makes a whole, makes the rest of the industry kind of puts him in a hole. I want to talk to you, though, in that same sort of context about the perception around ownership that most ad agencies, for instance, are. You saw a tweet earlier, I think the tweet was owned and run by old white men, which, of course, again, is a stereotype in itself. But is that the case? And is that something that should be of a concern to you?
I would like to say it's not the case, but I can't offer an authoritative view. You know, we look only at the advertising content. There are industry bodies that regulate this. The Association for Communication and Advertising has been driving very much a transformation agenda. There's a MAC charter that's been published. So there's very much work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But it's not, you know, we sit so much on the fringes of what's happening behind the scenes. It's not something I can really comment on, sorry.
And do you guys offer any assistance to ad agencies, or is that on the other authorities to kind of get them to understand the kind of narrative of South Africa?
We do, but within the confines of the content of your advertising. So although we can't pre-approve and give copy advice, we can give general advice, say this is how we've approached this system, this is how we've looked at similar cases before. It's very much how we do our adjudications as well, you know, looking at past cases to decide whether you've crossed the line or not this time.
In conclusion, if we can wrap up the conversation and you can maybe give a message from ASA to the public out there and also people, what kind of rights and sort of recourse do they have with you, and how do they get into contact with you if they feel that they're affronted by whatever?
Sure. I think the first thing to point out is advertising has a responsibility to be legal, decent, honest, and truthful. Yeah. If people are offended or they feel that they've been deceived, they can reach out to us. We have a website that people can contact. They can phone us. I think the simplest thing is to go to www.asasa.org.za, and from there all the information is available and they can get a hold of us.
Leon, fantastic. Great to have you in with us here today to talk about this. Yes, you have more rights than what you think. It's got to be truthful. Sometimes I don't think these ads are truthful, so I'm going to speak to Leon. There are a couple of dodgy ones out there that I think they're getting away with it. I'm not going to name and shame them. Leon Groble is the Disputes Resolution Manager at the Advertising Standards Authority of South Africa. Thanks for coming in today, Leon.
Thank you, Evan.
Now, we'll go onto our Facebook page. There's no false advertising there. It's only news, the ugly truth, as it were. The African National Congress in Mangaung has broken its silence about the ongoing unrest involving municipal workers in Bloemfontein. That's an interesting story. Then we also see the memorial service, of course, of Namibian freedom fighter Andimba Toivoa that will be held in Windhoek today. We'll be live there a little bit later. Of course, the 92-year-old struggle icon died earlier this month at his home in the capital city. Finally, protesters showed up at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport yesterday after Republicans unveiled a healthcare plan that President Donald Trump said he was very supportive of in a Twitter post. Well, he was the guy who killed Obamacare. Interesting, that one. That's on our Facebook page. You can also go to our website, of course, our website, sabc.co.za/news. We've got blogs, we've got all sorts of content there. You can interact with it and you can even send us a message. Now, on Monday, we are taking a look at irregular expenditure and the Auditor General's report. Now, the numbers that came out of there was not good. The local governments, well, I think around 20% of them got unqualified or qualified audits. It's not a good picture. Monday, we'll talk to Salga and other stakeholders about why our municipalities are wasting our money. That's the fact. After the break, we'll continue with today's discussion around advertising here in South Africa.
Water-wise, water is an essential need. The scarcity of it could lead to loss of many lives including livestock, plants, and much more. It requires us to use it sparingly and responsibly in times of need, failing which our taps and sanitation will not function. For more on water and weather issues, stay tuned to News Today, every Friday at 5:45 Central African Time. SABC News, making you water-wise.
If we can join our hands together against the ills of our society, we can build a better nation. One youth, one South Africa.
Now, a number of social media users took to Twitter, claiming to have cancelled their policies following OutSurance's Father's Day video blunder. Black South Africans have reacted to the advert with widespread anger, with many either threatening to cancel their policies or confirming that they've already cancelled their insurance policies, despite the company allegedly offering clients discounts in a bid to retain their customers. Now, this debacle raises questions about how a big brand like OutSurance gets affected by a backlash. Brand specialist, the man to talk to, Andy Rice, he joins us here in studio to shed some light. A very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Morning, Elvis.
Thank you for coming through. You saw the ad?
I did, yes.
What do you make of it, first and foremostly?
As a piece of advertising, I think it's fairly flimsy. It looked like what it was, something put together perhaps not as professionally as it might have been. In terms of the content and the hoo-ha that's erupted, I think it was, I mean, it would be highly unlikely that there was any malicious intent, that there was any objective of conveying a racist message at all. I just think it was naive. It missed all of their security checks, and overall, as we've seen, it's a very bad move indeed.
Now, we spoke to OutSurance a little bit earlier, and they indicated that it was a junior employee that released that particular or the particular tweet with the offensive video. Do you buy that, though? Could it happen?
Well, it shouldn't happen, because if companies believe that they are brand-centric, in other words, the building of their brand is their most important commercial objective, and that's what some companies would claim, then two things ought to have happened. Firstly, everybody in the organisation ought to know what the brand stands for and ought to be able to recognise immediately material that is on strategy and material that's not, and make a decision accordingly. And secondly, it should have been picked up, as I said earlier, and it should never have got past the concept stage. Someone said, look, I've found this video online. I think we could use it by piggybacking our brand on it for Father's Day. What do you think? And there should have been a unanimous no all round. If it really was a junior person who instigated it, then a lack of management supervision is indicated as well.
How bad do you think a brand like OutSurance, and even Pepsi for that matter, one of the biggest brands in the world, get affected by bad advertising like this one?
Not as badly as you might think. In the short term, yes, everyone's talking about it and it's not good publicity. But these things blow over very quickly, and brands are extremely resilient things. They have momentum and they have the ability to take a longer term view. So assuming that the OutSurance brand is indeed strong, and that's an assumption which I think is correct, then in 3 months' time, perhaps in 3 weeks' time, it will almost have been forgotten. And we can look at other case studies to indicate that is likely to happen. If we think about one of the biggest brand scandals of the last 18 months or so, that would be Volkswagen with their falsifying of emissions and fuel consumption data. And that was a huge scandal. It cost a massive amount of money, huge amount of negative publicity. But what was the automotive brand that was the biggest seller globally last year? Volkswagen. Yes. Now you can say it would have been even more successful perhaps without that. But the reality is that most potential customers for a brand will be quite tolerant of deviations from what they would consider to be their norm, and brands just have that ability to keep on going.
In OutSurance's case, there are threats, and some people has already cancelled their policies. Let's take a look at what people are saying, and let's take a look at this one from Mandela that says, called OutSurance to cancel my policy, something I've been meaning to do for a while, for a year now. And the lady says, woo, Twitter. I had such a laugh. Another one, this one from Tsepo says, OutSurance Black Man Matter, and as one of your policy holders and a father, I feel insulted and will cancel my policy with your company. Now, this one from Jan Malan says, I think I'm going to cancel my OutSurance policy, for they do not stand on their rights. Backboneless, says Jan Malan. Brurion. Well, there you have it. These are some of the comments from people coming through, and it affects a brand to a certain degree, even if it's just in the short term, as you indicated.
Yes, I don't know what the absolute number is. Willem Roos, the CEO, indicated earlier in the week that it was under 100. Compared with the number of policies they've got, that's obviously a relatively small number, but as he said, one is too many.
Yes.
I think the brands increasingly have to take cognizance of the fact that they are doing more than just trying to sell stuff. They are there to leave some kind of a legacy, to make a difference, and to tackle social issues. And brands need to understand the language and the narrative that goes with that. And it's not easy. But if brands were there only to sell policies, this would be less of an issue than the truth, which is that brands are there not just to sell policies, but to alter perceptions about communities. Brands compete in communities, not in categories.
How do brands recover from a setback like that? And do you think that brands should position themselves in this era of social media, which is a fast-moving medium?
Look, social media is a high-risk, high-reward channel. It has the ability to be misinterpreted and to be seen through the wrong eyes quite frequently. And most of the brand disasters of this type that crop up are driven by a social media instigation. How should they cope with it? Well, first of all, they should have a very vigilant policing of all material that goes out representing the brand. And secondly, they must do what I think OutSurance has done quite well in this instance, which is to be completely transparent, upfront and apologetic if they really have made a mistake.
Well, they said they've done that, and I've seen certainly one of those. But we're also asking this question this morning because it's not necessarily the company that normally produce any ad for them. It would be an ad agency that would advise them on the issues moving forward. Do you think, though, that the advertising industry in general is still racially untransformed or perhaps still inherently racist?
I certainly don't think it's inherently racist. I can see no reason why anybody would do anything other than pursue the consumers who are likely to give them the purchasing power that they're looking for. In fact, I can't think when I last saw a brief to an advertising agency that defined the target audience by race. It's just not done these days. Is the industry transformed? Not fully, but it's well on its way. I believe the advertising industry has done a good job. But albeit a little bit too slowly, like most industries. Your advice to companies out there, how do they make sure that their ads or the adverts that they put out are demographically aligned? Aligned with... Is that even possible? Well, it's difficult. I mean, if you go back to the early 90s, South African breweries were a pioneer in running campaigns that depicted where they wanted society to be rather than where it really was. So you had mixed-race drinking situations, which, hard though it is to believe, was almost unknown back in the early 90s. And they were castigated for that by some people. So you have to say, do I want to be a mirror on today's society, or do I want to be reflecting what I really want society to be? I want to be ahead of the social game. And that's a challenge that every company ought to take up and apply to their advertising strategy. I almost said Mr. Brand. Mr. Brand Specialist Andy Rice. I thank you so much for coming in and joining us here in studio. Fantastic discussion there. Now, we are, of course, asking you that question on the poll today. And there you have it, Mr. Rice. You can see 143 votes in. Is the advertising industry inherently racist?
well, 3/4 of our audience are suggesting that it is. And 25% are saying no. There's a number of tweets on this, but I don't think we have time. Do we have time to go through some of the tweets? No? Well, just one or two. This one from Pilani says, yes, they are. Funny enough, they forget that at the end they collect income from all races, but they advertise buyers to one race. On one race, I would probably read from Pilani. Well, these are some of your comments. You can keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue during the course of the program. In a short while, though, we'll be going to Windhoek in Namibia live. But right now, let's go to Eben and Kendall, who will speak about the Nedbank Cup. Will it be Orlando Pirates, happy people, or unhappy, perhaps, over the weekend?
This is not a racist statement. It's a black weekend ahead of us here in South Africa. Anyhow, we're talking Nedbank Cup, and we've been asking you guys to tweet us who will win the Nedbank Cup now. Of course, SuperSport United are the other team that are playing, and they represent the interests of the few.
Oh, very interesting. I love the way you put it. Yeah, but you know what? I don't enjoy a conversation more than when we're talking about a team or an athlete that you admire. You know, an Orlando Pirates fan through and through. And that makes it all the more interesting because, you know, the passion that you bring is exactly what's going to be brought to bear out at the Moses Mabhida Stadium.
It's been such a tough year for Orlando Pirates. Yes, for Kaizer Chiefs as well, but especially for Orlando Pirates, because I think as Orlando Pirates, we've had to do a lot of introspection. Yeah. There's had to be a lot of talk around even things like the ownership of the clubs. We've had a couple of media fallouts around this, coaches and so forth. But hopefully a trophy, this Nedbank Cup trophy, Kendall, will change it all this weekend, and we'll start the new season with renewed hopes and maybe a few new players.
Yeah, look, I mean, people will remember that, like, the Nedbank Cup is normally not normally played so late in the season, but there's been so much happening out in Durban that they had to make sure they had a standalone weekend to make sure that the fans have got something to celebrate. There's going to be lots of entertainment around it, but SuperSport United, who are defending this cup, have been quite busy with campaigns on the continent, whereas Pirates have been playing friendly. So the challenge here really is whether SuperSport, whether Pirates will be able to match the intensity that SuperSport can bring at this late stage of the season.
I agree with you, and I think that Stuart Baxter also has he has a lot to prove at club level. He'd want to walk away from. I think he'd want to walk away from the SuperSport job and entrench himself with a trophy. It's going to be very difficult to come from such long, quiet time for Orlando Pirates, and as you pointed it out, I think that's at the heart of it. It's going to be very difficult for players to suddenly get up to match speed, because it's not easy, you know. They say to get match fit, it takes you to play 8 consecutive games before you match fit, really. Wow. So therein lies the difficulty, and well spotted on your part. I think it's going to be tough for Pirates this weekend, to be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be a long haul, but you know what? They want to do it. They want to do it for their fans. They want to do it for their new coach, Jonavriet. He's been obviously very keen and eager to get to hit the ground running going into next season. So this is a very big match for
It's about
both
the
teams.
fans, isn't it? And the guys are tweeting us because, you know, everyone loves Orlando Pirates. Sorry to the Chiefs fans, your season's over, guys. But here's Pilani. He says, Pirates, of course, if they know what's good for them, yes, they must know. They must.
Boy says it will be a footballing injustice if SuperSport don't win. SuperSport all the way.
Hey, man. Hey, man. Hey, man. Mabonga says to me, SuperSport United go to the Nedbank Cup final. More favorable to win now. They know the secret to defeat Pirates. All these Chiefs supporters are suddenly tweeting on behalf of SuperSport.
The last time they met was a 1-1 draw. So, you know, the Pirates got one back there and shared the spoils. So, yeah, this is what's being said about this massive match on the weekend. It should be a cracker. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to chatting about it again on Monday.
Thanks, Kendall. Let's hope on Monday you'll be giving us all the good news. Of course, we haven't had a lot of football. It's like the dead time in world football. So this weekend, I think all eyes will be on the final. It's going to be a massive, massive event. But let's go over to Phil. Maybe you can tell us that the weather's going to be great.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's take a look at that weather. We'll start off with the eastern coastlines of South Africa, because here we are expecting conditions which might just see a little bit of rainfall really around the southern parts of the Lesotho Highlands and adjacent South African areas. We might even see snow there for today as that cold front passes by. You can see that's affecting the eastern coastline there, and that is why we're seeing that rainfall at the moment. Now, high pressure systems are beginning to move in behind that low, and of course that's starting to clear up South Africa's western regions. We're also seeing clear conditions through Namibia, Botswana, Botswana, most of Zimbabwe as well as most of the rest of southern Africa. Central Africa remaining fairly rainy in the northern regions, and of course this time of year we start to see that migration of rainfall further and further north. So southern parts of DRC dry for today and for tomorrow. Rwanda expecting a little bit of rainfall for tomorrow. Again, isolated showers along the eastern coastline there around Mozambique's coastal areas. And now this time we see high pressure systems moving all the way through to South Africa's eastern interior, and that's going to clear up most of that rainfall and most of that cloud cover. Should just see partly cloudy skies. In terms of your temperatures, well, it's not particularly hot today at all. Cape Town at a 16-degree maximum, and of course everything behind that cold front, very, very cold. We're seeing only 11-degree highs in Kumani, Da'a at 12, and Durban at 18 degrees. And taking a look a little bit further northeast, we'll see that ahead of these cold fronts, 22-degree highs forecast for Pretoria and 23 for Polokwane. Moving on into the rest of southern Africa, what we do see is that conditions remain fairly mild around the southern regions here. Gaborone at 25 degrees. Warming up though as we move a little bit further north to Maun, 27, and Harare peaking at 22. So, of course, those eastern regions not particularly warm. Also not very warm towards the west there. Walvis Bay at 22 degrees Celsius and Luderitz at 21. The good news though is there's a lot of sunshine all the way throughout those entire areas there. A little bit of cloud cover does come in towards Moroni at 29 degrees Celsius, and once again we are expecting a bit of showers forecast for the island region there. Antananarivo peaks at 28 degrees for today, substantially warmer than it was yesterday, and of course that's ahead of that low pressure. Kinshasa 33 degrees, sunny skies forecast here with temperatures in Bangui up at about 32. Now, what we do see in Bangui, though, is quite a bit of rainfall forecast for the area. As we said, we're seeing a lot of that rainfall moving further north. So that is where, of course, we're going to leave your rainfall and your weather for now. Stay tuned with SABC News.
It is 6 p.m. Central African Time, broadcasting live from Johannesburg. This is Primetime News.
South Africa said farewell to one of the Rivonia trialists, Uncle Cappy, a fearless stalwart.
With this man who was so engaged, so busy, so witty, so funny, so wise, and so incredibly principled.
Joseph Shabalala has been honored for his contribution to the South African music industry. A statue in his honor was unveiled during an annual gala dinner in Ladysmith.
The shot of the day, however, belonged to American Daniel Berger, who chipped in for an eagle on the par 4 fifth hole.
For all your news updates, stay on Primetime News every Saturday and Sunday from 6 p.m.
So from Port Elizabeth, I eventually left there, joined the circus, as you know, and travelled. I was a singer, I was a race car driver, and I wanted to see what my chances were in America. So I started off with MTV, and I started producing music, because I was in the music business, you know. So I started producing musical acts with Black Sabbath, Guns N' Roses, Motorhead, and I became Wine, Women and Song. That was my life in Hollywood.
A pioneer, a Crystal Award recipient, Basil Gold is a force to be reckoned with. For more inspiring stories, stay tuned to Bupilong every Friday.
We are certain in giving an update on all leading stories.
You see South Africa has a yellow palette which indicates a warning color on this index.
We are first to give market updates.
And the more the currency is under pressure, also our costs go up.
We always give you the best guests to keep you informed and sharpen you for the day ahead.
You got to find something people are willing to pay for, that they need now, and they have the money to pay for it. The minute you tick those 3 boxes, you're in business.
Sports Roundup to fill you in.
985 is not the end. You know, for me, it's going faster than the 985 and keep improving the record.
Never start your day without Morning Live if you need a perfect dress guide for the day.
Parts of KZN into Kokstad, we're seeing those 4 patches. Please drive carefully.
Set the agenda for the day with Morning Live. We make sure to be where news is happening,
both locally and globally. For the latest business news, stay with us.
From South Africa to the world, we've got all your latest sporting news.
Don't miss our weather updates every hour. Stay tuned to News Today, Monday to Friday, from 3 to 5:30 p.m. here on SABC News.
Welcome back. This has gone 10 o'clock. You guys have been tweeting us feverishly this morning because we've been talking about racism and inherent racism in advertising. Ken.
In South Africa, that's one topic that's sure to garner votes, sure to garner opinions across the board.
Yep, we've been running that poll on the recent outcry on social media due to an advert. Of course, many said it misrepresented the demographics of South Africa. So we've been running this question on our poll this morning. Is the advertising industry inherently racist here in South Africa? 3/4 are saying yes, it is, Kendall. You surprised?
Not at all. I've lived in South Africa almost my entire life, and you know what? I know exactly what they're referring to when they say yes.
You see what you see. The scary thing this morning is that, again, even on this question, different backgrounds and races have different answers on it, which kind of paints the picture, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Warang says to us, Newsroom, they're absolutely terrified of competition. Okay, this is guys, this is the wrong tweet. This is about the taxi industry. Can you please help us? Thank you. Can we take some pictures?
There we go. We've got one that we can use for this particular question, which we're asking about, is the advertising industry inherently racist? Where Andrew comes in.
He says, it seems like anything done by a white person in this country, it is racism. Andrew Mojana, interesting view, that one.
Wow, and Boy with Big Dreams says, yes, it's been socialized into believing that racial indifference is for the basis of our behavioral patterns.
Marvin to the world. Competition is tough. Okay, guys, you're giving us the wrong tweets. Can we? Okay, that's our question. Or this hour. That's what I'll be changing our focus away from the racism story to our question of the day, which is this one. It seems as if we're having Friday problems here in studio today. Meter taxis. They want Uber to leave the country. If they could, they would kick them off the planet, Kendall.
Yep, absolutely. What they've done is they're literally tantamount to the same.
Yeah, we've heard gunshots, violence every day, drivers assaulted. Even clients and customers have been assaulted. And Mzalize tweets us on the question. He says, why must taxi drivers, I think, dictate what should happen in our roads or transport industry? We run a risk of experiencing lawlessness. We're seeing that lawlessness with a tax on Uber drivers.
Yes, Jacob also says these meter taxi drivers are barbaric. Uber is in business as much as they are. Competition is healthy for business. Arrest
them. It's healthy for business and it's healthy for us, the consumers. Competition means we pay less and we get better services. And somebody should tell that to the big businesses here in South Africa. Marvin tweets us, he says, are they saying that every time they get a competitor, they will strike for them to leave? They should improve their services. That's how the world works. Thanks, Marvin. Keep tweeting us, guys. We're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk to a couple of stakeholders about, well, our question of the day. But we also ask a sports question, of course, every day, and it's Nedbank Cup, and we all know why I'm in black. I'm not mourning. I'm supporting Orlando Pirates with the Nedbank Cup, but I have a very nervous feeling, if I'm really honest, Kendall.
Yeah, look, it's going to be very difficult for them to up their game and actually get competitive on the weekend. But you know what? They know the fans want it. I think they might just will themselves to do the job.
Let's hope it happens. The people's team need a result. Anyhow, let's take a look at our 10 o'clock headlines. The police in Tshwane continue to keep an eye on the situation in Mahube and Mamelodi east of Pretoria. This follows a standoff between bonded homeowners and illegal land invaders living in nearby shacks. The Botswana nation is in mourning following the death of former President Ketumile Masire. And Namibian struggle icon Andimba Toivo Ya Toivo has been honoured with a hero's funeral, which includes a memorial service today and a burial at Heroes Acre in Windhoek tomorrow. Those are the news headlines on this Friday morning at 10 o'clock. Let's go over to Kendall for the sports top stories.
Eben, thanks very much. Quite a lot going on. Yes, the Pirates are playing Super Sport for Nedbank Cup silverware, but we also have the Confed Cup on the go as well.
Yep. And
Cameroon seem to have done enough to make sure they go home. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
Purpose from the youngster. And a rush tackle.
Cameroon has 1 foot on the plane home after failing to capitalize on numerous scoring opportunities and a 1-0 half-time lead against the lucky Australia.
Milligan scores.
I've talked with so many people out in town and around the club, and everyone, please give us the cup, give us the cup, give us a trophy.
Well, the Pirates have one last chance to salvage some semblance of pride this season as they vie for silverware in the Nedbank Cup final against SuperSport United.
Ruan has trained really and worked really hard. He's played well during Super Rugby, and yet again in a combination with Malcolm Marks is the ideal time to give him an opportunity.
Springbok coach Alistair Coetzee continues to reward form over reputation as he selects debutant Ruan Treya, making it 8 Lions in his starting 15. More detail on these as well as other stories at 10:40. Do stay with Eben though, because he's got the news.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kendall. Our top story, and it's a developing story, I'm told. The police service and the Tshwane Metro Police are keeping an eye on the situation in Mahube, Mamelodi, east of Pretoria. This follows a standoff between bonded homeowners and illegal land invaders living in nearby shacks. The High Court in Pretoria has interdicted illegal land occupiers from destroying the city of Tshwane's infrastructure. The city of Tshwane approached the High Court after illegal land occupiers blocked formal residents from leaving their homes. Several houses and shacks were burnt down during the standoff. Tshwane Mayor Sali Msimanga, who visited the area, told the residents that the city is fast-tracking the process to evict shack dwellers from this area. The Botswana nation is in mourning following the death of former President Ketumile Masire. Masire passed away last night at the age of 91. He was admitted to intensive care unit in a Gaborone hospital over the weekend past. He was the president of Botswana between 1980 and 1998. The South African High Commissioner to Botswana, Mdu Limbede, says Masire was instrumental in the fight against apartheid in South Africa by creating a passage for freedom fighters. Masire was the first vice president of Botswana who went on to lead the landlocked country, taking the baton from the first president, Seretse Khama. We will bring you a full view on his life a little bit later. Next door, Namibian struggle icon Andimba Toivo Ya Toivo has been honoured with a hero's funeral, which includes a memorial service today and then a burial at Heroes Acre in Windhoek tomorrow. Foreign dignitaries from Cuba, Zimbabwe and South Africa are among those expected to attend the events in Windhoek. The 92-year-old freedom fighter died earlier this month at his home in the capital city.
Well, flags are flying at half-mast at all public and private institutions, and the country's president, Hage Geingob, has also declared 3 days of national mourning in honor of the struggle icon. He's also been declared a national hero, which means he will be buried at Heroes Acre on Saturday. But here, plans are already underway for the memorial service, where hundreds of mourners are expected to be bussed in. Well, books of condolences have been opened at Namibian embassies around the world, signifying the kind of militant fighter that Toivo Ya Toivo was. Well, he paid the price by spending 16 years at Robben Island with the likes of former President Nelson Mandela. And now Namibians are gearing themselves up for a send-off of a true revolutionary who refused to bend to white rule.
We lost a very good reader, and I hope his legacy will continue.
We are sad, but also we are comforted by his life.
He gave his life for Namibia.
So as this country mourns, so does South Africa in its appreciation for the role that Toivo ya Toivo played in the attainment of democracy. Criselda Lewis, SABC News, in Windhoek.
A 5-member state customs union summit kicks off in Swaziland this morning. It follows a meeting held in Namibia, Windhoek, a month ago. President Jacob Zuma is expected to deliver the keynote address. Outgoing Southern African Customs Union chairperson King Maswati III is expected to outline the way forward on the efforts to strengthen intertrade relations amongst the member states.
It's all systems go for the 5th SACU Summit. South Africa, Namibia, Lesotho, Botswana and Swaziland are the 5 countries gathered in Mbabane for the Southern Africa Customs Union. At the top of SACU's agenda is the generation of funds to help boost these countries' economies, including cross-border trade.
We agree on promoting industry, we agree on cooperating on matters of negotiation of international trade. We agree that there's a need to review the revenue sharing formula. That's one of the pillars of work that has been agreed on.
More plans are in the pipeline to expand SACU's international relations.
Discussions with Britain as a result of the Brexit, and SACU has written and indicated that as SACU we want to engage with the United Kingdom on that, and we've received a positive response from them.
President Jacob Zuma arrived last night. He's due to deliver a keynote address. Botswana are next to chair SACU after Swaziland. Sibongile Mkanimpolweni, SABC News, Mbabane in Swaziland.
Of course, at this hour, we've shifted our focus and we're talking about, well, the standoff between meter taxis and Uber here in South Africa. Now, meter taxis, that's our question of the day. They want Uber to not just stop operating, they say they want them to leave the country. We've been asking you, what are your views on this? What are your views on this? Let's have a look what you guys are tweeting us before we get into this story. This one from Luster K says, Newsroom, Uber has provided quality and reliable service with an upfront trip price. The taxi protests must improve their service to be used. Simple. Xavier ANC, K. Sechwale says, it's simple. Meter taxis rip us off. No Uber, we stay within the alcohol limit and we drive our own cars. Newsroom. This one from Ronnie. Ronnie tells us meter taxi drivers should be innovative, not offensive. This one from Lechasa, he says meter taxi should learn that we replace CD with USB, infrared with Bluetooth and share it. Mix it is gone now to WhatsApp. Yes, Lechasa, you have to move with the times. They say the ones that survive are the ones that change. Yes, if you want to evolve, you have to change. That's simple. But still, the meter taxi drivers, they are up in arms against Uber operations here in South Africa. Even though the planned meter taxi strike was called off yesterday, the drivers are resolute that Uber operations must stop operating in South Africa and leave the country. Recently, 2 Taxify and Uber cars were torched in Pretoria. Now, well, we spoke to the spokesperson, but we've just lost the clip. Let's take a little break. We'll come back and we'll play that interview for you.
If you asked the British how they felt about being the biggest cider drinkers in the world, they'd say something like this. Yes. Well, we don't know about you, but that sounds like a challenge. Challenge accepted.
Get a 6-pack of Savannah Premium Cider Dry or Light 330ml handies for only $56.99 from Tops at Spar.
Water-wise, water is an essential need
The scarcity of it could lead to loss of many lives, including livestock, plants, and much more. It requires us to use it sparingly and responsibly in times of need, failing which our taps and sanitation will not function. For more on water and weather issues, stay tuned to News Today, every Friday at 4:45 Central African Time. SABC News, making you water-wise.
If we can join our hands together against the ills of our society, we can build a better nation. One youth, one South Africa.
The South African Transport and Allied Workers Union, SATAW, is a trade union representing workers within the transport industry. Joining me now in studio is SATAW's Gauteng Provincial Taxi Coordinator, Phumulani Qawuka. A very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Good morning to you, sir, and good morning to the viewers at home.
Now, they say the taxi industry is a massive industry. How many workers are you trying to organize within that particular sector?
Well, with regards to organizing the sector, I would really much to be honest, because it has been difficult to organize the sector. There are its enormous challenges within the sector to organize it in such a way that we organize a very minimal membership within that sector. We have not done the verification as to what is the current membership within the union as to where we're sitting in that sector.
There's about 250 vehicles on the road in relation to minibus taxis, and they say around about 600,000 people working in the industry. Now, I'm not too sure how that breakdown is in terms of drivers and workers within the industry, but from those 600,000 people that's working in industry, how many have you got as members?
Well, it can be a minimum of 80 to 90,000 membership. It's really a minimal membership. As we have alluded to say, there's 600 employees that are in the employment of the taxi industry. And what is also difficult in organizing the sector, you find that some of the employees who are calculated in the 600,000 neither the drivers nor the employers in the taxi industry want to accept the responsibility of those employees. Those employees are your fare collectors and the car washers within the taxi industry. No one wants to accept the responsibility that they are really their employees.
Is there a sense that labor laws apply within the taxi industry?
Well, you are correct. The labor laws do apply. There's a sectoral determination which was really difficult to negotiate. The discussion started around 1999, and it was only passed in 2005. But I would tell you now, there's no adherence to that sectoral determination. You find employees, they work long hours with low wages. The employee is prescribed to work in a week 48 hours, but you'd find it's not the case within the industry.
So it would make sense that if you work for an employer that is giving you problems, that you would align yourself with a SATAW, which is a union, to represent you. So why do you have those challenges by signing up these members to be members of your union?
Well, there's a slow signing up of members by the very same employees of the taxi industry. Quite a number of issues are causing that. One is that the employees, some of the employees are even the taxi owners of those taxis. So it's quite difficult to merge in those employees to really join the union, because you'll find various reasons from those employees who are the taxi industry to join the union.
Do they understand, though, those workers, the protection that you can provide to them as a SATAW?
Well, we have tried. We had programs. As much earlier in this year, we had a program where we wanted to recruit throughout this province, which is Gauteng, making them aware to say there's a particular union that you can join, which is SATAW, And we even went to their taxi ranks with the Department of Labor to deal with the issues of UIF and the workmen's compensation, because it is a fact most of the employees in the taxi industry are not registered with the Department of Labor, and there's no UIF contributions. You see accidents within the sector, but employees, who's going to pay for those employees' medical bills, because they are not registered with the Department of Labor. So it's quite a difficult industry. But we are pushing to say most of the employees must join their union.
So if there's no contract and there's no formal employment contract for that matter, how would the minimum wage then apply within the taxi industry?
Well, it's quite simple. There's a prescription in the sectoral determination of the taxi industry to say a driver within this sector must earn at least 3,218 rands. The administration staff must earn also as the same as your driver. And then there's your rank marshals, who should earn at least 2,500. And then the other categories which are not mentioned in that sectoral determination would fall under a category which would earn 2,100. But I would tell you there's no adherence to that. And we usually assist our members for associations to adhere to that sectoral determination wage that is prescribed.
What would you like to see changes as a TAO, and how can government assist you?
Well, to changes that we'd like to see to the sector, it would really be an adherence to the sectoral determination of the taxi industry, meaning the employees would be paid as per your sectoral determination minimum wage. They would be deducted for, and then there would be contributions of UIF and your Provident Fund, because those are very significant benefits that any other employee needs. Part of the issue that we would like to see or realize the establishment of is a council. Most of the industries, they have their own bargaining council, where there's a centralized bargaining. Employees, they get the benefits directly from those bargaining council. But within this sector, it's not there. So we would like really to have a bargaining council of the taxi industry that would negotiate even those minimum wages, because the minimum wage is not really negotiated by the representative of employees. It comes from where a minister makes a publication for public comments, and after the minister has made those publications, then the Department of Labor must do the public hearings across the country. But the issue is, do we have the employees of the taxi industry having to contribute to the final of the sectoral determination? The answer is no.
Mr. Kawuka, I thank you so much for joining us. It's still an uphill battle within the taxi industry, it seems.
A very battle, but we will not back away. We will still push for workers to get improved working conditions.
That was the TAO's Gauteng Provincial Taxi Coordinator, Pumalani Kawuka.
Yeah, before the break, you saw the little fallout they had there with the standoff between meter taxi owners and Uber drivers. Well, of course, the meter taxi drivers up in arms about Uber operations in South Africa. They say even though the planned meter taxi strike was called off yesterday, the drivers are resolute. Uber operations must stop in South Africa. They must leave the country, they say. Recently, 2 Taxify and Uber cars were torched in Pretoria. Now, we spoke to the spokesperson for the Meter Taxis Association in Gauteng, Ruben Masire, on the challenges in the taxi industry and their planned strike, which then was called off at the last minute.
We heard last night that it is called off, so it's no longer there for now.
Who called it off?
Pardon?
Who called it off?
No, the leadership and the coordinators, because of certain reasons.
What are the reasons?
No, those are secret to us, because each and every organization have got its own secrets. But the issue is that it's no longer on. Let's put it there.
Okay,
yes.
but why were you going to strike in the first place?
There are many issues. The first one is that, let me put it this way and maybe show you here. The government have confirmed and pronounced that Uber is illegal. That is from the Department of Transport as a response after the blockage at the airport. Now, from us is, if the Uber, the government say is illegal, it's just an IT company as a pronouncement, why is it still operating? And now, secondly, let me put it this way. On the 21st of September last year, we went to Parliament to make a presentation. In our presentation, the issue of Uber was a priority. But the government admitted that Uber is illegal, but said technology, and we agreed that we don't have a problem with technology. We are prepared. Personally, we are opening up an app now. By the end of this year, Meter Taxi will have their own app, which will be national. I'm leading that company. But now, let's talk a reality. Uber doesn't even conform to everything that is being subjected to meter taxis. It's opening up its own parallel structure. When you apply for a permit, you are supposed to go to Department of Transport. There are requirements that you are supposed to conform to them. But Uber doesn't. Even it said it doesn't do anything, and it's an illegal company. Now the question should be, more than 25 countries in the world have banned Uber. The latest is Italy. And Italy, when it banned Uber, it said, Uber doesn't work with even the pricing issue. That was the issue of pricing within Italy. Denmark have banned Uber. Hong Kong have banned many countries. Now, why South Africa? It doesn't follow up to protect its citizens. That is the question. And Uber, if it was right, it was supposed to come to the industry through the department and say, I've got this gadget. Can you identify your operator? So then I can be able myself to work with them, so to enhance their business. It didn't do that. Now, let me give you one simple example. Yes. If the department was fair, take the issue of Masire. When it came to buy companies in South Africa, the department, the competition board, all of them were part of it. And they regulated it. Now, meter taxis, if you are talking about meter taxis, let me be honest. Everywhere in the world, the recognition of a taxi is a meter taxi. Forget about minibuses here in South Africa and matatus in Kenya. I have gone various countries, but once you define a taxi, you define a meter taxi. Now the government should be, because in any country, in a land, when you are entering that country, whether from the sea or from the airport, the first person you will interact with is a meter taxi. That is what is happening. But now why the South African government particularly neglect meter taxis?
So what you are saying, you're not open to a free market society?
It's not a question of free market. Let me explain.
Because Uber is also running an essential service. But does that then suggest that you are afraid of competition within the market?
Not at all. If you look at meter taxis, I will tell you, before the 2010, there were companies from abroad who came to set up operations here in South Africa, like SafeCab. We never objected to them. But Uber, let me put a simple question that people doesn't understand. That Uber never came to work with us freely, to compete with us.
Are you willing to work with them?
Provided they jack up their prices. Yes.
But why would they jack up the prices if there's supposed to be competition within the market?
No, let me explain to you. I gave you an example about Italy. The Italian government said Uber doesn't want a competition, it's destroying the industry. Now, let me give you one simple example. If you go to Park Station, you hire a trolley to take your goods to the bus terminal. They charge you more than 60 rands. I'm talking about somebody who doesn't put petrol, anything, it's just a trolley. Now, if you take Uber, for that 22 rand they are charging for certain radius, Even the taxis for Uber coming to us to say, can you assist us because we're not making money here. Uber will take its money, and then they will say, we get only a 2 rand. And if you take from Bramfontein, now I'm giving examples, to go to Park Station, if you enter Park Station, you pay 15 rand for the entrance. Now, from 22 rand, and we're left with 7 rand. Uber will take its own commission. What is left for the driver? What is left for the owner? It's nothing. And Uber is not a competition. Look, I'll give you a simple example. We charge 600 rand from Johannesburg to Pretoria. Ourselves, understand it. Uber is charging 500 rand, provided there is an abandon of cars. The moment they call it surging, they will charge 2,000 rand for that. I will give one incident that will you know. It's a pity because I didn't get his approval for Sepata. I'm saying. Mr. Dalimpofu was in Sentin. He went to our guys asking how much to Pretoria. They said it's 600 rand. The porter at the hotel said, no, this guy is expensive. I will call Uber. It's about 350. But when he arrived at his destination, he popped out 1,600 because there was a traffic and all. So is that a competition? No, but I just want to be honest so that the viewers can also ask themselves the question.
Mr. Muzawiwa, I want to check with you.
Yes.
The Uber drivers are currently under threat. They're being attacked by meter taxi drivers. Why is violence the solution?
Okay, thank you for that. It's a frustration. Last year around March, we marched to the Department of Transport, highlighting our plight to the government, to Ismail Vadi. Before then, let me explain. It's a pity I have in my archives. We were, you know, the issue of drivers had a structure that went to Vadi complaining. Vadi didn't do anything about it. We went ourselves. We took a decision to march to Vadi's office. Vadi didn't respond to us until we had a sit-in, whereby they responded and say, I had, if also like this one, I had that response say, Uber is illegal. But to our surprise, Vadi, we confronted him, assisting Uber to apply for permits. And the following day, that incident was spread out in the newspapers as if we were thugs. Meter taxis had never been violent in their nature. They had never been violent. But out of frustration, when the government is doing nothing, even to respond to us adequately and say, we understand this, these are the mistakes that were done, so can we correct them? Then where do we go?
But you've now sent a warning to government that there will be more to come. Strikes, that is. Why?
No, why do we, okay, if we don't send that warning, where do we supposed to go? Because the government is the only legitimate government that we are supposed to protect us as citizens of this country. Where do we must go else? Tell me. It's not us alone who are sending strikes to government.
So what
Labor force everywhere they're sending. You know.
Finality and closing, because we're running out of time,
Yes.
so what is the solution?
The solution is the intervention of the government and understanding our problems. That is the solution. Because the government, this is, I'm showing you here, has admitted Uber is illegal. It's an IT company. You say it's not a transport. Then if it's an IT company intruding in our territory, we're supposed to go. The government was supposed to impound, as they impound our taxes. We have paid exorbitant amounts of money because of the government. They are impounding our taxes when they say you are illegal. But in that essence, in our submission to Parliament, because according to the bylaws, a taxi should be seen in 50 meters when it's coming to you. Uber doesn't comply with those things, but we are still subjected to that. Right. Where do we suppose, as South African citizens and obedient ones?
That interview was recorded a little bit, not earlier today, yesterday. Actually, it's as Charles Darwin kind of puts it into perspective, I think, the best. He says, of any species, it's not the strongest or the fittest that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. And maybe the taxi industry, the meter taxi industry, should heed those words. We're going to do sports in a short while, but before we go there, let's take a closer look at the life and times of Seketumetse Masire.
Mahatma Gandhi was a fighter of peace, and therefore to be associated with him in any way, it's great in itself.
Kwet Kitumile John Masire was born on the 23rd of July 1925 in Kanye, Botswana. He is the second president of Botswana for the Botswana Democratic Party from 1980 to 1998. He stepped down and was succeeded by the then Vice President of Botswana, Fistos Mogae, who became the third President of Botswana. Prior to this, he was a leading figure in the independence movement and then the new government, and played a crucial role in facilitating and protecting Botswana's steady financial growth and development. In 1961, Masire helped found Botswana Democratic Party, BDP. He was in the formation of the party and served as its first Secretary General. In 1965, the Democratic Party won 28 of 31 contested seats in the new Legislative Assembly, giving it a clear mandate to lead Botswana to independence. In 1966, Masire became the new nation's vice president, serving under Seretse Khama. He also occupied the significant portfolios of finance and development planning, which were formally merged in 1971. 5 days after the death of Seretse Khama, Masire was elected president by secret ballot at the National Assembly on the 18th of July 1980. Masire's terms were characterized by an emphasis on developments through regional and international organizations.
Fire agreement, which came into force on the 31st of August, 19 police parties shall agree on 1. The formation of a new Congolese National Army, 2. The new political dispensation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, 3. Free, democratic, and transparent elections, 4. The draft of the Constitution which shall govern the Democratic Republic of the Congo after holding elections.
Masire was chairman of the South African Development Community, vice chairman of the then OAU. He was also the chairman of the Global Coalition for Africa and the member of the United Nations Group on Africa Development. He also served as the Chancellor of the University of Botswana from 1982 to 1998. In August 1998, while flying with his staff to a summit in Angola, his executive jet was accidentally shot by an Angolan Air Force MiG-23. The plane was damaged and Masire was injured, but the co-pilot was able to make a successful emergency landing. He was awarded the South African Statesman of the Year award, one of the few African leaders who have relinquished power voluntarily. A spokesperson for the Promoters Award, Ambassador Kapembe Nsingo, said about Masire, "He is indeed a leader of exceptional qualities."
The story is that you had this Botswana, including traditional leaders, whose sense of commitment to the liberation of South Africa was so strong. That person didn't say, I'm a chief. I can't keep an AK for terrorists or something. But so strong was that sense of commitment that South Africa must be free that you could get a Linswe to take a position like that. You know, I'm not quite sure what he said. He went to his colleagues there in Gaborone, that we had a nice cup of tea and, you know, and the reason he didn't, he was worried that some of those ministers might panic. When he gives an accurate report to say P.W. Botha and Peck and all these people were saying Botswana will ban, then some of those ministers might say, in which case, President, please let's block these ANC people. And so he decided not to panic them, don't tell them. And he didn't. So Botswana didn't panic. So what I'm saying, these stories I'm telling you about Botswana, they are an extraordinary story about the character of a people. a story that Amimpongwe tells. You know, when it's correct, we sit with Mwalimu here years ago, and Mwalimu is very interested in what are we going to do with the rest of our continent, so we discussed that. And indeed, as Ami says, Mwalimu says, look, I'm your convert, ready to do whatever you want me to do on the continent. I'm your messenger, send me anywhere. Now this is Julius Nyerere saying that to me. Again, that says something, not about me, but about that caliber of leadership. That you have that quality of leadership. Mwalimu Nyerere is my teacher, my mentor, my leader, my whatever. But he has the grace, the discipline, the whatever else. To say to this younger fellow that he brought up, it's clear that you are thinking and wanting to do things that are going to be valuable for Africa. Forget that I'm your leader. I'm now your messenger. How many leaders like that do we still have on the continent?
Also, an advocate of women empowerment.
Well, let us admit, women have had a disadvantage. They have the disadvantage of looking at our homes, the advantages or disadvantages of looking after our children, looking after us to look smart at freedom squares and public places. Meanwhile, while they're playing that role, we're doing nothing to advance their cause. And it's psychological that because they have held that backward position, not just in Africa, but worldwide. And we must really be, it must be an international uprising to give women the status they deserve. After all, as I said in the address, women create problems. And when problems come up, then we leave them. And it is they who suffer, whether it is in the Sudan or in the Somalia or in the Congo or wherever. Every country that has had refugees have had refugees because there are problems there. And when men went out as refugees, women remained at home and suffered all the consequences, the invading marauders play havoc on them. And it's time they were given a chance. After all, men are mainly breadwinners. Women are the people who run our affairs. Why don't we let them do that to the full?
Has done in 12 years what the bulk of African leaders have failed to do in 3 decades. Lehana Tsotetsi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Do you support the calls made by Blayton Nzimande and Solly Mapaila?
It is not a call by Comrade Solly Mapaila and Comrade Blayton Nzimande. It is the position of the party.
Yes.
And the position of the party, we support it unambiguously.
Why?
The theory of the revolution, in simple terms, was that revolutionary forces are going to take charge of the state. And having taken charge of the state, they are going to transform the state to eventually transform society.
Join me in Port Zedu live every Monday to Thursday at 17:30.
Africa is getting more and more digitized, and people have to navigate through an increasingly connected world.
I did call my bay over here.
At school, I use my Wi-Fi. On Network, we tell you about Africa's technology and social media landscape.
Politicians already do use Twitter a lot.
It's both Android and iOS compatible.
A solar-charged box that includes everything, the computer, the projector.
That's Network with Ms. Phumelele Zondi every Sunday at 9 p.m.
Welcome back. Time for the sport. The time is just hit just before 11:15. South African rugby coach Alistair Coetzee has selected Ruan Dre in his starting 15 to boost the Springboks' depth at tight head prop. The Lions' prop's inclusion was the biggest surprise during the squad announcement, which sees 4 changes to the run-on team for Saturday's third and final test match against France right here in Johannesburg.
Dreyer replaces Frans Malherbe at tight head. Malherbe drops out of the matchday squad, while Koenie Oosthuizen will once again be on the bench as cover.
And the national team's rugby is always healthy when you have proper tight heads. And I think with the 3 of them, they are really doing a fantastic job. Ruan has trained really and worked really hard. He's played well during Super Rugby. And yet again, in a combination with Malcolm Marx, is the ideal time to give him an opportunity.
Jean-Luc de Preez starts at flank in place of Oupa Mohoje, who misses the test due to concussion. Jesse Kriel is back at outside centre, and Coetzee wants to build his partnership with Jan Serfontein. Francois Hougaard starts at scrum half as Ross Cronje sits out, also due to concussion.
I never want to play him at wing because you've got talented wingers, and I don't think that is his, best position. I think number 9, he's done well when he came off the bench. Number 9 and scrum half suits him really well with his power play, with his pace. And the questions that he can ask.
Fullback Andries Coetzee can further cement his place, especially if the team makes a clean sweep.
He will be the Afrikaanse sê die cherry op die koek wees.
The Lions Rugby Union says they've sold about 52,000 tickets for the test, and just 8,000 seats are still available. Harry Olivier, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, there's been plenty of trash talk this week, but now both coaches say it's time to talk on the field. Both the British and Irish Lions and the New Zealand All Blacks came up with a few surprises in naming their teams for this weekend's first test in Auckland.
The All Blacks are cheats, the Lions are predictable, the New Zealanders had inside info. All those digs and accusations will mean little at Eden Park on Saturday, and both coaches have named formidable lineups. Warren Gatland made just 4 changes to the side that played on Saturday against the All Black Maoris, most of them expected, with Owen Farrell at fly half, Elliot Daly and Liam Williams amongst the backs, and lock Alan Wynne-Jones in the starting 15. The biggest surprise was at number 7, where Gatland named Sean O'Brien, relegating tour captain Sam Warburton to the bench. The skipper's armband goes to flank Peter O'Mahony.
It's a huge task, obviously, the calibre player they have. Obviously, their record, in Eden Park, obviously is impressive. But look, it's going to be a different animal the weekend. It's going to be 20-odd thousand Lions fans there.
The All Blacks included 12 of the starting lineup that thrashed Samoa 78-0 last week. In the only unexpected move, Steve Hansen preferred 20-year-old Rico Uwani to the experienced Julian Surveyor on the left wing. He's not just fast, he also has a safe pair of hands ahead of an expected aerial bombardment from the Lions. Kieran Reid has been passed fit to captain the side. Janet Whitten, SABC News.
Now, 4th seed Marin Cilic is through to the quarterfinals of the Queen's Club Championship in London. The Croatian avoided becoming another top-seeded player to be eliminated early at Queen's. He steered past American teenager Stefan Kozlov in straight sets, winning 6-love, 6-4.
The 4th-seeded Cilic is the highest-seeded player left in the tournament following the first-round exits of top 3 seeds Andy Murray, Stan Wawrinka and Milos Raonic. Cilic, winner of the prestigious Wimbledon warm-up event in 2012, cruised through the first set in 24 minutes. He lost only 10 points, breaking Kozlov on 3 occasions. The 28-year-old won 20 of his 21 first service points and lost 7 points overall for his 21st match win of the season. He was given more of a workout in the second set. 19-year-old Kozlov came up with an improved performance with some tidy grass court skills, but failed to break Cilic's serve.
Pushed in the second set, very one-sided in the first.
At the Halle Open in Germany, Kai Nishikori's Wimbledon preparation suffered a setback. The world number 9 was forced to retire injured in his second-round match against Russian Karen Khachanov. The third seed took a medical time out to treat a back injury. Shortly after resuming a match in the 6th game, Nishikori retired with the score at 3-2 in the first set for the Russian.
I think a handshake is coming, and here it is. Well, what a pity. Kei Nishikori just unable to continue. We really hope that isn't serious.
Khachanov will now play countryman Andrei Rublev, who beat Mikhail Yushny. Yushny came back from a set down to win the second set to take the match to a decider. Rublev proved too powerful for Yushny, taking a 3-love lead after he broke him in the second game.
And he's back, and back with a bang.
Yushny won the remainder of his service game, but failed to break his compatriot. Rublev continued with his powerful serve to eventually beat Yushny 6-love, 3-6, 6-3. SABC News.
Right now, Australian Wade Ormsby is the leader after the first round of the BMW International Open Golf Tournament in Munich, Germany. Ormsby carded an 8-under par 64 for a one-stroke lead over Belgium's Thomas Detry. He shot a bogey-free round and came up just short on an eagle putt at the 18th, but tapped in for the lead. US Masters champion Sergio Garcia of Spain is in a 5-way tie for third. Jaco Allis is South Africa's best-placed player on 5-under par. Henny Otto is a further shot behind on 4-under. And Durban will host the FNB Durban 10K City Surf Run later this year, which will be the third installment in the Run Your City series. The Run Your City series holds claim to 2 other races in South Africa, and organisers are hopeful that this race will be the fastest and most exciting in the series. The FNB Durban K City Surf Run is the latest addition in the Run Your City series. It's the flattest of all the routes, and the organisers have high hopes that it will also be the fastest in the series. The race, which will take place on the 8th of October, is the sister event to the FNB Cape Town 12-1 Run and the FNB Joburg 10K City Run. The Durban 10K City Surf Run is an ideal opportunity for South African middle distance runners to beat their personal best times. The race will start in Masabalala Yengwa Street and in front of the Moses Mabhida Stadium, seeing runners going past several of the city's iconic landmarks and finishing on the famous Golden Mile Promenade. Should be lots of fun. I'll be chatting to the founder of that in the next hour. Make sure you're with us at 11:35. Now, the stage is set for the Nedbank Cup final between defending champions SuperSport United and Orlando Pirates at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban. For Pirates, it's one last chance to salvage some semblance of pride this season and continental football for next season. And for SuperSport, the defending champions, a win would be a fitting way to send off their coach, Stuart Baxter, who takes his leave to focus on his job as the head coach of the national team. Both coaches promise fans a crackerjack of a match.
Orlando Pirates will once again lock horns with SuperSport in the Nedbank Cup final. SuperSports are looking to become the first team to defend their title after beating Pirates in last year's final in Polokwane. But it will not be easy for the Matzanzanza Wako Pitori. The Buccaneers are desperate to redeem themselves after a dismal performance in the 2016-2017 ABSA Premiership. They've been preparing for the final by playing a couple of friendlies in the run-up to Saturday's clash. SuperSport, on the other hand, are currently involved in the 2016 CAF Confederation Group stage.
This is the last chance to win something this year. It's absolutely correct. But at the same time, I don't see it as a press. Since we played the last game, was also here 4 weeks ago. I've talked with so many people out in town and around the club, and everyone, please give us the cup, give us the cup, give us a trophy. And normally that could mean that you start to get a little nervous or you start to feel a lot of pressure. But I just get more and more energy, and I think the players also get more and more.
Pirates finished 11 on the ABSA Premiership log, with SuperSport in 5th place.
We've gone to Telkom final and we lost, and I think it's very important as well in terms of our players. They realize that if, as far as we've gone to 2 cup finals, but we haven't won anything yet. So it's I think psychologically we'll be looking at that and say, we need to win something this season, and I think this gives us a very good opportunity and to try and win silverware.
A near full house is expected for the match, which kicks off at 8:15 on Saturday evening. Tulani Msimanga, SABC.
Massive weekend ahead in the world of sports. We take a short break. We'll be back at the top of the hour to bring you more news and more sports. But before we let you go, quick one. A comment on what's happening this weekend in the Nedbank Cup final. Warong's best kick, says SABC Newsroom. The big Soweto teams are on a decline in soccer. Quick fire solutions will not help. A rebuild needs to happen. And he says, SuperSport win. Because we've been out. Who do you think will win this Nedbank Cup? We'll be back shortly. Stay close to Newsroom.
Rights and recourse tackles constitutional issues.
When South Africa became a constitutional democracy, we had a fairly sound legal system in place requiring the Constitution to guide the direction in which it must go and the way in which it must be refashioned.
The Justice Ministry, the custodian of human rights.
We actually have a plan to come up with a comprehensive review of our human rights instrument.
Advocates dealing with evidence.
Sometimes you have to use a crook to catch a crook. So we expected that the credibility would really be taken to task. You try and consult your witnesses and prepare them as best as you can.
Hashtag Rights with Dumila Mates on legal issues every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central African time.
If we can join our hands together against the ills of our society, we can build a better nation. One youth, one South Africa.
Bird Island is part of a group of 4 islands and is an important breeding place for marine bird species. They are classified as important bird areas with good reason.
Bird Island is so named for the largest gannetry in the world. We have over 110,000 breeding pairs of gannets, Cape gannets on Bird Island. We also have a very healthy and stable population of the African penguins. As we know, the African penguin is critically endangered. Populations throughout all the colonies have been decreasing for the last 15 years. And today, sadly, we have less than 2% of the original population left. At the Elephant National Park, with the 7 islands that we manage close to 50% of the total population of penguins in South Africa. Here on Bird Island, we have just under 3,000 breeding pairs. Whilst at St. Croix, which is the largest penguin breeding colony in South Africa, we have just under 7,000 breeding pairs of penguins.
The decline here is similar to declines at all other African penguin colonies, and urgent conservation action is needed. Although a marine protected area was proclaimed around Bird Island to protect important marine resources, more needs to be done.
We only have a small marine protected area already declared at the moment, which is the surrounding area here on Bird Island. It's only about 7 kilometers squared, so it's very small. So we have been working towards a much larger MPA for the last 10 years. And essentially we're looking to conserve the northern half of Algoa Bay. Algoa Bay is a very special place. It's one of the most biodiverse areas along the South African coast. So we're looking to protect obviously the very threatened and endangered penguin, but also other overexploited species like lionfish and abalone. I think it's important for us to conserve the whole ecosystem. Just as you would like to see rhino and lion and kudus in a terrestrial park, you want to see this and conserve the same thing in the sea. So you want to have all your top predators like your sharks and your penguins, and then also your things like whales and fish. You want to make sure that the ecosystem is whole when you conserve and protect it.
The natural resources of these islands have been exploited ever since the arrival of the 1820 British settlers. Prior to the settlers, ships from various nations supplemented their rations with eggs and birds from the islands. With all the resources and knowledge to our disposal today, there is no reason for us not to protect this critical habitat.
Yes, it's a Friday here on the Newsroom. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Kendall Mahamat.
Jumbo Africa, and welcome to the final hour here on Channel 404. Now, we've got the whole hour to still talk to you because we're running that poll. And that poll, we're asking you, is the advertising industry inherently racist, Ken? That's the question we pose.
It's been a very interesting week with OutSurance being lambasted for that advert they put out on Father's Day, and that's why we even open up the show with exactly that question. 168 votes have come in on that question, on that poll.
76% are saying yes, they're still inherently racist. 24% are saying no. But you've been tweeting us as well. Let's take a look. Tums there says, this ad broke my heart. We have come so far only to find out a select few just want to pull us back. Hashtag OutSurance.
Advocate van der Reekes says the advert industry uses black people on products that are deemed cheap and white people on the more expensive products.
Well, you can see the differences. Christian Kleiner says advertisers poke fun with most people of most demographics. Somewhere we must still have a sense of humor. Ask Trevor Noah. Yeah, you're so right as well, Christian. Those are some of the comments. You can keep them coming. Very diverse views on this particular topic, but keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. But we're also very talking about a very disturbing story, and that's meter taxi. Yes. Very angry about Uber.
Absolutely, and they even making calls for them to be kicked out of the country and beating them up and harassing commuters as well, which is why we're asking you the question, meter taxis want Uber to leave the country. What are your views?
So, this one from Ramith says, they look at you and set a price that looks like you or where you are going. I was once charged 200 Rand from Sandton Howe train station to Saxon World. And I promise you that's a very short distance. 200 Rand for that. It's unbelievable. Wow. Depending on the meter taxis that he's talking about.
Yeah, I believe that's it. That's what he's talking about. She's talking about. Nazim Khlotbom says, meter taxi drivers must know this. Uber drivers have families to feed too.
Well, job creation. Masilo says people should try and come up with a solution that will suit all, which might take some time, says Masilo. Those are your comments. Keep them coming. Very divergent views once again, but you can keep them coming. But another divisive story is, of course, who will win the Kiona Cup this weekend? Kendall.
Yes, it's going to be the defending champion, Super Sport United, who are yet to win any silverware this season. Only the Orlando Pirates, who've fallen out of the top 8 for the first time in the PSL era. So we're asking you, who's it going to be?
Yes, so last chance saloon perhaps for Orlando Pirates. Craig Francis says Super Sport should win the Nedbank Cup final in extra time.
I want to hope that's extra time because it's 2-2, not 0-0. Mlungisi says Orlando Pirates, obviously.
a very happy chappy there. So keep them coming. But right now, let's get down to business and take a look at your headlines. The police in Tshwane continues to keep an eye on the situation in Mahube, Mamelodi, east of Pretoria. Now, this follows a standoff between bonded homeowners and illegal land invaders living in the nearby shacks. The Botswana nation is in mourning following the death of the former president, Kutumile Masire. And Namibian struggle icon, Andimba Toivo Toivo, has been honored with a hero's funeral, which includes a memorial service today and a burial at Heroes Acres tomorrow. Those are your headlines. Before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, you know, I've just picked up on this, like 2 struggle icons across the continent being spoken about, having passed today. You know, it's a big day, certainly, in the history of the liberation of Africa.
Day for the liberation of the African continent.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you very much.
And a big loss too.
Definitely a big loss. You know, it's a big loss. It's a big day. It's a big weekend that we're looking at when we look at the sports as well. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you today.
Purpose from the youngster. And a rush tackle.
Cameroon has 1 foot on the plane home after failing to capitalize on numerous scoring opportunities and a 1-0 halftime lead against a very lucky Australia.
I've talked with so many people out in town and around the club, and everyone, please give us the cup, give us the cup, give us a trophy.
Orlando Pirates have one last chance to salvage some semblance of pride this season as they vie for silverware in the Nedbank Cup final against SuperSport United.
Ruan has trained really and worked really hard. He's played well during Super Rugby, and yet again in a combination with Malcolm Marx is the ideal time to give him an opportunity.
Springbok coach Alistair Coetzee continues to reward form over reputation as he selects debutant Rowan Dreyer, making it 8 Lions in his starting 15. I'll also be chatting to the founder of the Durban City Surf Run at about 11:35. Make sure you stay with us, but don't leave because Elvis has got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this morning. The police service and Tshwane Metro Police are keeping an eye on the situation in Mahube and Mamelodi east of Pretoria. This follows a standoff between bonded homeowners and illegal land invaders living in the nearby shacks. The High Court in Pretoria has indicted the illegal land occupiers from destroying the city of Tshwane's infrastructure. The city of Tshwane approached the High Court after illegal land occupiers blocked the former residents from leaving their homes. Several houses and shacks were burned down during the standoff. Tshwane Mayor Solim Simanga, who visited the area, told the residents that the city is fast-tracking the process to evict shack dwellers from the area. Of course, there's also rumors of a wall to be built between the 2 communities. Now, a 5-member state customs union summit kicks off in Swaziland this morning. It follows a meeting held in Namibia, Windhoek, a month ago. The President, Jacob Zuma, is expected to deliver the keynote address. The outgoing Southern Africa Customs Union chairperson, King Mswati III, is expected to outline the way forward on their efforts to strengthen inter-trade relations among the member states.
It's all systems go for the 5th SACU Summit. South Africa, Namibia, Lesotho, Botswana and Swaziland are the 5 countries gathered in Mbabane for the Southern Africa Customs Union. At the top of SACU's agenda is the generation of funds to help boost these countries' economies, including cross-border trade.
We agree on promoting industry, we agree on cooperating on matters of negotiation of international trade. We agree that there's a need to review the revenue sharing formula. That's one of the pillars of work that has been agreed on.
More plans are in the pipeline to expand SACU's international relations.
Discussions with Britain as a result of the Brexit, and SACU has written and indicated that as SACU we want to engage with the United Kingdom on that, and we've received a positive response from them.
President Jacob Zuma arrived last night He's due to deliver a keynote address. Botswana are next to chair SACU after Swaziland. Sibongile Mkanimpolweni, SABC News, Mbabane in Swaziland.
Now, President Jacob Zuma says he's not stepping down and has rejected a call by the South African Council of Churches for fresh elections. He was answering questions in the National Assembly yesterday. This after the Constitutional Court ruled that the National Assembly Speaker, Baleka Mbete, has the discretion to allow the use of a secret ballot in a vote of no confidence against the President.
We are doing a job. I respect that.
A buoyant President dismissing suggestions he should go.
I think the people of South Africa did not make a mistake by electing me as the president of this country. I'm fit and I'm doing it very well.
The president denied that the release of the Gupta emails proved state capture. He questioned the origins and authenticity of the emails, pointing out that the Public Protector, Parliament, and the State Capture Commission of Inquiry would probe the matter.
The Judicial Commission of Inquiry and the emails will be part of that. So we are not leaving them unattended to. Then we will be able to speak about the emails with a serious scientific investigation which will tell us exactly what happened.
President Zuma also dismissed reported accusations that he'd facilitated government deals for his son, Duduzane.
You can't single out a young person, one person, and victimize the person because he's a son of the president. It's not correct.
Zuma dismissed suggestions that the nuclear-built program would drain the fiscus and favor Russia, reiterating it will happen at a pace and scale that the country can afford. He also defended the recently gazetted mining charter, saying it was approved by cabinet. Ulilani Philip, SABC News, Parliament.
Now let's go back to that big story that's unfolding in Namibia. The Namibian struggle icon Andimba Toivoya has been honored with a hero's funeral, which includes a memorial service today and a burial at Heroes Acre tomorrow. Foreign dignitaries from Cuba, Zimbabwe and South Africa are among those expected to attend the events in Windhoek. Let's go there live now to our reporter on the scene, Griselda Lewis. A very good morning to you, Griselda, and welcome. Can you tell us about the arrangements and what currently is happening there?
Well, Albert, a very good morning to you. Well, as you can see here just next to me, it is all systems go for the memorial service to kick off here this morning. As you can see, some of the military personnel have already started arriving. We're also expecting some of the main dignitaries to also take their seats right here where all of this has been set up at the moment. It's just some dignitaries at this point from the Ministry of Information that have only arrived from this country. But you can see this large marquee has been set up for those dignitaries that you spoke about, including those that will be attending this memorial service from Cuba as well as Zimbabwe and other countries. Of course, you would know that Toivoya was revered as a revolutionary African leader. So that's certainly who tribute will be paid to here today. And the podium over here is exactly where those tributes will be paid, including by his widow as well, who we're expecting us to give us some insight into exactly who this revolutionary leader was outside of the politics that we all know of. The politics that we've come to hear of over the past couple of years is a revolutionary who was steadfast in his condemnation for the manner in which the apartheid regime had marginalized black people, both in South Africa and what was then Southwest Africa, which became Namibia after independence. And this is where we're also expecting the body to come as well. You'd know, of course, the viewing itself will take place here at the Independence Stadium, and it will move from here to the parliamentary precinct, where overnight it will lie in state for perhaps those who might not make it to the memorial service to perhaps view that body then overnight, and that's when he will be laid to rest at the Heroes Acre here in Windhoek. You'd know he's of course been granted that hero status, and it's certainly what we've heard from Namibians saying, while it may be a sad loss for this country and many other countries, of course, where Toivo went on to inspire many others in the struggle for liberation, but it may be a send-off, saddened, of course, the Namibians, but the crucial role that he played towards independence in this country and the struggle for freedom in South Africa, they say it certainly will not be forgotten. And one of the things that certainly does resonate also is the fact that Namibians are saying this lasting legacy that has now been left by Toivo is something that African leaders should emulate. Many of the young people that I spoke to as well say that this legacy is something that needs to be told to the younger generations as well. So at this point, you can see all the media also setting up here in anticipation, of course, for this memorial service that will get underway. But most importantly, I think if we put it again, once again, as we've been saying in the South African context as well, when you look at a lot of the contributions that he has made for the struggle for freedom in South Africa. Remember, of course, I've already said this in the run-up to it, where he became very much involved in South African politics during the apartheid regime, is when this man had moved to Cape Town in South Africa, and where he really got to see the plight of the black people under white rule was when he worked in the South African mines. And very interesting, on one of the spreads in the newspapers here in Namibia this morning is a huge spread of him clad in some of, the regalia or the uniform that is often worn when they do go underground. And one of those pictures, I understand, was also taken in South Africa. And many are saying that it was the starting point of what became the revolution then. Banned, of course, or banished from South Africa when it was found that he was smuggling some tapes with testimonies from black miners talking about how they were marginalized and how they were treated by the apartheid government in South Africa. And then he was banished and then moved back to Namibia. And those are certainly the things that will resonate here today. Of course, you know that the South African government is also represented here today. But just in front of us, you see the military personnel have just arrived, and the music already is also blurring from many of the speakers that have been set up here as well. We'll try to talk to as many people as possible once this memorial service does get underway, but many of the tributes that we are looking forward to, of course, are of the former Namibian leaders, Sam Nujoma, as well as Hafikepunye Pohamba, who are also expected to grace this event here today, together with many other leaders as well. I think the SWAPO leadership as well, of which you must recall that he was the founding father of, Toivo was the founding father of. They're also expected, to give much outline his contribution from the very early stages of SWAPO into what then became an independent Namibia. But I think it's all picking up here at the moment. The brass band itself is also just about to take to their positions at the moment. We should get underway, but also perhaps where you cannot see from where we are at the moment, many buses are also coming in from outside the precinct here of the Independence Stadium. So we're expecting many Namibians to take a day off work, to take a day off many of the things that they were supposed to do today, and of course pay tribute to Toivo, and basically find out from the leaders of this country here today how that lasting legacy, of course, itself will continue. We'll try, of course, a bit later on speak to Namibians as well, and interesting to hear what they will have to say, as we've also been speaking to them over the past couple of days since we've been in Windhoek, where they talk about emulating this legacy and how young people themselves should learn from the likes of Toivo as well. Also something that we're also expecting here today, not to overshadow this event, of course, as well, is perhaps condolences that will also pour in here from the Independence Stadium with regard to waking up this morning to the death of Botswana's former president, Masire. So those are some of the things that we're expecting to hear from here at the Independence Stadium as well. And recall, of course, that very close to South Africa as well, Sir Masire. If you look at the fact that the last time we saw him, of course, was in South Africa just last year at the book launch of the former President Thabo Mbeki, the Thabo Mbeki I Know. So all of those tributes will bring in from here as well. Let's take a look at all this that's being put up just in these few minutes, just some of the tributes that are being put up here as the final preparations are being made as well. Let me come towards this direction and give you, if you have a look at that, some of the tributes that are going to be put around this main area here, just a bit closer to the podium, as well as many of the other. That is him with his children. Yes, let's just have a look at this. Let's just bring this in as well. I just managed to get this one away. Are we able to speak to you just to find out when this was taken? Can we find out from you when this was taken, sir?
Well, this one was taken at his...
Let me just turn this around for a few seconds. Perhaps we can focus on that.
It was taken at his residence in Windhoek. And as you can see that he's carrying two children. Those are his two twins, his two daughters. And as you can, if you have been at his house, it's having a very steep hill. And you know, every time, because he normally wake up every morning to exercise, and he also normally carry his daughters, go down, come up and down, like the way this picture indicates to you.
Let's talk about what this signifies and the legacy that we're here to honor today.
Well, it's to honor the icon of our liberation struggles, the men who have stood firm to liberate our country, and we as the young people is our role model to most of us here. He has fought for this. He has been for 6 years on Durban Island. He has spent most of his young life fighting for the apartheid that was in this country, and for us to enjoy the fruits that we are currently enjoying today. Really, Ndimba Yatoivo we regard as one of the father of the nations of this country. And by losing him, yes, of course, we know he has done enough. We have really acquired a lot of knowledge and skills from him. And as a young person, I must tell you that he has been one of my role models. I've learned a lot from him. He has taught us how to live a better life, not a big life, but to live a normal life, like the way he has been. And for us, losing Ndimba Yatoivo, it's a big loss to this country. But what we can say that we are here today at this stadium to celebrate his life, because he has done enough, and we really appreciate that. And we just say, may his soul rest in eternal peace.
But as young people, how do you think that legacy would be best preserved? We have all this information about such a great man who was not only concerned about freedom in Namibia, but also freedom in places like South Africa. So how do you as young people take from that and ensure that the very same principles that he lived by are emulated every single day?
Well, as young people and leaders of this country, I think we definitely know that he's respected not only in Namibia, but in particularly in South Africa and other SADC country and the entire African country and the world at large. And as young Namibians, we would really want to say that his legacy needs to live on. He needs to live on. And we need to lead by example, like the way Ndimba has been, what he has been doing since when he came back from exile. He served in the government, and when he realized that he has done enough, he decided to go and said, "Look, I have done my part, and I'm going to retire at this point in time," just like the way Madiba did it.
Do you think that's exemplary, though, and perhaps something that misses on the African continent, is missed on the African continent at this point? You know, Ndimba Yatoivo, when he was done, he left and said, "My purpose has been served," and made way for others to come in. Do you think perhaps that's something that today's African leaders can learn from?
War, indeed, yes. There are very few the types of leaders like the Madiba and the Andimba that we are celebrating his legacy today. They are not a lot on the African continent, and it's about time that those who are in leadership positions in this country and on the African continent start realizing that they need to start learning what Andimba has done, what Madiba has done, and few other African leaders who has been, in leadership positions, and they decided just to leave those positions without any issue, without any questions or anything that the public will start asking questions about it. There are very few on this African continent, and it's about time now that the African leaders start realizing it, that these icons of our liberations are going, some of them who did a great job. And we, the young people, must start now applying the types of leaderships that they have done, that they have proved to us. We must also start, following in their footsteps. If we do not, then the African continent definitely will never, never move one step in the right directions at all. There are few of them, African leaders, who did a great attainments of all what they have been doing. But there are many who are not doing it right.
Mr. Ngweta, I think we'll talk politics all day if we continue with this conversation. Let's just quickly have a look at this picture as well. If you could tell us what this is about, we'll ask our camera person just to come this direction. And then that one in particular is also with the children as well.
Yes, this picture is indicating a very happy family, as you can see. Tatekulu with his two daughters and the wife. Yes, yeah, it was just taken also, it was just a function that was taking place at home. Yes.
A family man. Thank you very much for your time there, Mr. Ngweta. Just some insights, from ordinary Namibians about this legacy that needs to be preserved and exactly who this man was that is being celebrated here today, being remembered as well. And I think that's certainly something that will emulate throughout the course of the day today. We're expecting this event to last at least about 5 to 7 hours as we wait for many of the Namibians to come and pay their last respects.
Griselda, will the president be there today at that particular memorial service? Because we understand that Hage Geingob is in Namibia.
Well, that's right. I think, President Geingob has certainly, done his part as head of this country to pay tribute to this struggle icon. You know that the flags have been flying at half-mast. He has also conferred, or rather given him a status of a national hero. So that resonance in terms of the kind of man that is being honoured here today is something that this government has really thrown to the fore. He will be present here today, and I think a clear indication as well from other previous presidents as well of Namibia, including Hifikepunye Pohamba, as well as Sam Nujoma, who is the founding father of Namibia, will also be present here today amongst many other high-profile guests as well. So we're very interested to hear what he will say, but I think the tributes that he will pay will speak to the massive sacrifice that he has made for independence in Namibia as well as freedom in South Africa.
Griselda, thank you so much for that report coming to us live from Windhoek in Namibia. Now, in less than a month, some 30 climbers will participate in the annual Trek for Mandela in an attempt to summit Mount Kilimanjaro. Now, the aim is to
bring them now for the past 6 months. And the whole aim is to make sure that the body preparedness is at least, you only fitness. It's about also the mind fitness. So we also take the opportunity, to ease their nerve and talk to them about what to expect, but also get them to ask questions about, their most fears and also what to look for when they get on the mountain. So it is very important, and we are very excited. You mentioned in your intro about the unfortunate passing of our dear brother, the late Gugu Zulu. But, you know, to see people coming a year after that and say, we want to do it, we understand that this is for the girl child, this is for Madiba legacy. We are truly honored and humbled, and we want to make sure that through the 6 training sessions that we've been giving them to try and increase their opportunities to summit and celebrate on that beautiful morning of Mandela Day on the 18th of July.
Now, caring for girls, why is this initiative and the climb to Kilimanjaro the best way to create awareness and raise funds for the organization, you think?
I think for me, it has got different legs to it. But the main thing is that when I started Trek for Mandela and Caring for Girls in the year 2012, it was after I got exposed to menstruation and puberty in a very uncomfortable way, because I just overheard a conversation between my mom and my niece. And when I immediately wanted to start collecting sanitary pads, there was a lot of taboo around the subject. So not many people, no one was able to give me a packet of sanitary pad. And because they were asking a question, why are you doing this? Because you're a man. And then I decided to come up with an initiative that will not only, help keep girls in school, but it will help us celebrate one of our late president, or our stalwarts, the late President Nelson Mandela, but also to make sure that we use what we have as Africa. I think Kilimanjaro is one of our precious resources. If you were to go to Kilimanjaro tomorrow, you would be surprised at how many people come from all over the world to celebrate what a beautiful resource that we have as Africa. So we thought, let us take the expedition to the mountain, but it's very interesting that it is similar in a way that when a girl child is going through her periods, for us, we take it as climbing a mountain. So one of our climbers in 2015, actually, she nailed it when she was asked, why are you climbing Kilimanjaro? She said, I am climbing Kilimanjaro so that at least these girls that we are trying to assist have one less mountain to climb in their lives. So for us, it's synonymous with that mountain. And also we know that when we go and get to Uhuru Peak, which is, it means freedom in Kiswahili language, we are saying we are climbing, and when we are at the top, we are saying this climb is dedicated to make sure that the African girl child is freed from the struggles of menstrual challenges, which leads them to some extent not having to attend school simply because they do not have sanitary pads.
Now, last year, the initiative was struck by tragedy when the race driver, Gugu Zulu, passed away while trying to summit. Did it have an impact on the campaign itself, you think?
It's very interesting, because when it happened, I mean, as you know, Letseho and I and many other climbers were there, and obviously the first thing that you look at is, you feel for the family, you feel for South Africa, because it was just a somber moment for the whole country. And then, of course, the knock-on effect is the impact on the program. It's people saying, no, I don't want to do this mountain climbing. But on the contrary, we were really, really humbled by the way South Africans responded. As I'm talking to you right now, 27 people have signed up and said, I am going to make sure that as you mentioned in your intro, that one of them being Letseho herself, she said, I am going there to finish what our dear brother or her late husband was trying to do. So I think for me, I was really in a space whereby I was feeling that, yes, it will definitely impact the program, but it did not. And this is simply because the people of South Africa understood that the late Gugu Zulu was trying to do the very same thing that, Letseho keeps mentioning, that he said, I have a daughter. And for me, I just cannot accept the fact that there are many young girls out there who are simply missing school days simply because they don't have sanitary pads. So I want to stand in a space whereby I make sure that this issue or this challenge is addressed and make sure that our girl children are able to attend school. And it's not only that, as I'm talking to you right now, Elvis, DISCAM campaign is running, DISCAM Foundation is running a campaign which is aiming at collecting 10 million pads. And as I'm talking to you right now, they've already collected over 1.5 million pads from the public. And this is South Africa saying, let us rally behind the program. Let us make sure that not a single girl miss school simply because they do not have sanitary pads. So I think for me, we are truly, truly humbled by the way South Africa has responded to the campaign and the world, because we also have other climbers from other countries as well, including Singapore as well as the United States of America.
Now, for those members of the public that want to participate and perhaps donate to the program, how do they do that?
They can do that by simply SMSing the word girl child to 42513, and each SMS contributes 30 rands, and we make sure that for that 30 rand, one girl child will stay in school for at least that 1 month. And as you correctly said in your intro, we are currently reaching over 350,000, but our biggest goal is to make sure that by year 2020, we want to have reached 2 million girls nationally.
Thank you so much for your time and joining us. That, of course, was Richard Mabaso caring for girls doing the Mandela climb. Now, you too can be part of that, of the entire trek up Kilimanjaro. If we can scroll up there, after this campaign, you can pledge that 30 Rand to support our SABC News team. SMS Gillian and Tabo M to raise funds for sanitary pads to keep a girl child in school. It costs you 30 Rand, but do SMS it to that number and pledge your part. There you have the numbers on your screen. Right now, Sir Kutumile Masire, who was Botswana's second president, has died, aged 91. He was hospitalized in a critical condition at the intensive care unit at Bokomoso Hospital since June the 18th. The Board of Trustees of the Sir Kutumile Masire Foundation issued a statement last night announcing his death. Masire will be remembered for his efforts to end violence between Mozambique's government and the main opposition Renamo party in his role as the co-chair of an international group of mediators.
He was a fighter of peace and therefore to be associated with him in any way, it's great in itself.
Kwet Kitumile John Masire was born on the 23rd of July 1925 in Kanye, Botswana. He is the second president of Botswana for the Botswana Democratic Party from 1980 to 1998. He stepped down and was succeeded by the then vice president of Botswana, Fistos Mugai, who became the third president of Botswana. Prior to this, he was a leading figure in the independence movement and then the new government, and played a crucial role in facilitating and protecting Botswana's steady financial growth and development. In 1961, Masire helped found Botswana Democratic Party, BDP. He was in the formation of the party and served as its first Secretary General. In 1965, the Democratic Party won 28 of 31 contested seats in the new Legislative Assembly, giving it a clear mandate to lead Botswana to independence. In 1966, Masire became the new nation's vice president, serving under Seretse. He also occupied the significant portfolios of finance and development planning, which were formally merged in 1971. 5 days after the death of Seretse, Masire was elected president by secret ballot at the National Assembly on the 18th of July 1980. Masire's terms were characterized by an emphasis on developments through regional and international organizations.
Which came into force on the 31st of August, 19 police parties shall agree on 1. The formation of a new Congolese national army. 2. The new political dispensation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, 3 free, democratic, and transparent elections, 4 the draft of the Constitution which shall govern the Democratic Republic of the Congo after holding elections.
Masire was chairman of the South African Development Community, vice chairman of the then OAU. He was also the chairman of the Global Coalition for Africa and the member of the United Nations Group on Africa Development. He also served as the Chancellor of the University of Botswana from 1982 to 1998. In August 1998, while flying with his staff to a summit in Angola, his executive jet was accidentally shot by an Angolan Air Force MiG-23. The plane was damaged and Masire was injured, but the co-pilot was able to make a successful emergency landing. He was awarded the South African Statesman of the Year award, one of the few African leaders who have relinquished power voluntarily. A spokesperson for the Promoters Award, Ambassador Kapembe Nsingo, said about Masire, "He is indeed a leader of exceptional qualities."
The story is that you had this Botswana, including traditional leaders, whose sense of commitment to the liberation of South Africa was so strong. That person didn't say, "I'm a chief. I can't keep an AK for terrorists or something." But so strong was that sense of commitment that South Africa must be free that you could get a Linswe to take a position like that. You know, I'm not quite sure what he said. He went to his colleagues there in Gaborone, that we had a nice cup of tea and, you know, and the reason he didn't, he was worried that some of those ministers might panic. When he gives an accurate report to say P.W. Botha and Peck and all these people were saying Botswana will ban, then some of those ministers might say, in which case, President, please let's block these ANC people. So he decided not to panic them, don't tell them. And he didn't. So Botswana didn't panic.
Also, an advocate of women empowerment.
Well, let us admit women have had a disadvantage. They have the disadvantage of looking at our homes, at the disadvantages of looking after our children, looking after us to look smart at freedom squares and public places. Meanwhile, while they're playing that role, we're doing nothing to advance their cause. And it's psychological that because they have held that backward position, not just in Africa, but worldwide. And we must really it must be an international uprising to give women the status they deserve. After all, as I said in the address, women create problems. And when problems come up, then we leave them. And it is they who suffer, whether it is in the Sudan or in the Somalia or in the Congo or wherever. Every country that has had refugees have had refugees because there are problems there. And when men went out as refugees, women remained at home and suffered all the consequences, the invading marauders play havoc on them. And it's time they were given a chance. After all, men are mainly breadwinners. Women are the people who run our affairs. Why don't we let them do that to the full?
Done in 12 years what the bulk of African leaders have failed to do in 3 decades. Lehana Tsotetsi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Welcome back. Time for the sports. Now, earlier on, I promised that we'll be bringing you more on that FNB Durban 10K City Surf Run, which will be run in October this year. To chat more about this exciting innovation in road running is athletics guru Manfred Sadler. Manfred, good morning. Thanks very much for coming back.
Morning, absolute pleasure. Always a pleasure to be here.
I've been looking forward to this chat for some time now. You told me it was coming up. You told me that there was a new thing on the cards, and it sounds incredibly interesting. We're speaking about a new type of road race. Yes, it's the same distance as what people know, but it's got new innovations. It's got new things attached to it.
Nothing like a bit of teasing, isn't there?
No.
No, look, it's massive. I think for South African road running, it's probably one of the biggest stories to hit South African road running, and I can't remember for how long. The concept is a 10-kilometer race in Durban, but it's not just, as you say, a 10-kilometer race. It caters to the masses, people to go out and have fun and so on, but it also caters to the front end, the elite element. And I think that's one end that in South African road running, particularly in the middle distances, hasn't been looked after for many years now. So this is really great news because we're looking at bringing in some of the world's best athletes on the fastest, a very, very fast course. And the plan is to make this the fastest 10-kilometer in the world this year.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about this. So the plan is to make the Durban 10-kilometer city surf run to have the result as the fastest 10-kilometer run in 2017 across the globe.
Correct.
And this builds on experience, I suppose, that that the organization has from having done it in Joburg, having done it in Durban, but now they want. Why this one? Why Durban? Why not? Well, I haven't done it in Cape Town, I meant to say. Why not do it in Cape Town? Why not do it in Joburg?
Well, obviously we're looking at coast for fast times. Middle distance athletes prefer the coast, so the 10K would obviously have to be at a coastal venue. No disrespect to Johannesburg, but it is at altitude. Yeah. And there's no such thing as a flat course in Johannesburg.
That's true.
That's the reality. And Cape Town does have the FNB 12 one run. So there's already a race there, which actually started this whole series. So Durban is the obvious, logical next move. And Durban does have the perfect routes and courses for this fast run. It's happening in October, 8th of October, so the weather will be absolutely perfect. It's just the perfect combination.
All right, now you mentioned a little earlier, because right now, okay, on screen we've got views of the masses enjoying it, having fun, etc. But you said something about the elite athletes, how in South Africa they really have not been taken care of, at least not in the middle distances. Yeah. What do you mean by that, and how will this take care of that?
Well, let's go back 20 or so odd years. We used to have the likes of Kulile Yahweh, Matthews Luppenfeld, Machodatal, Matthews Tamani, Zitlele Sinkim, William Toro, the Tsebi brothers, Lawrence Pugh, the list is endless. And these guys were running times that in those days were world-class times, world-beating times. And what is subsequently is they had the opportunities. There were races on offer, catering to that distance, the 10-kilometer, the 5-kilometer, 15 kilometers, half marathon, and they were on courses that cater to fast times. Plus, there was huge prize money at stake. So everything, all the boxes were ticked. And what has happened in the last few years and so on is that, particularly up in Gauteng, is that the focus has been for race organizers to make their race perfect for the build-up to Comrades. And I can understand that completely, but the elite element then falls away. And we also don't have the track element. There's not enough 5,000 or 10,000 meter races,
yes,
which is the same as a 10-kilometer, roughly. Well, it's the same distance, but obviously there are certain different parameters. So that element of South African athletics has stagnated. And with something like this, and Elroy Galan saying this is a very fast area, of course, this is the record should go. Remember, the South African record is 27:38. Excuse me. The world leading time right now is 27:17, I believe it is. So it's very doable, and those would be the ideal conditions to do it.
And Elroy Galan, of course, is one of the key runners that we've got, one of the linchpins for this entire thing that's going to be running in this race?
Absolutely. He's actually been part and parcel of this series since inception. Him and Stephen Mokoka, obviously, last year and this year as well. So if we see the two of them there, and like Sibusiso Nzima, Gladwin Mzazi and so on, you know, there's certainly a possibility from a South African point of view to run fast times.
So what kind of runners are we expecting to see in this race? I mean, are we looking at people that are running at that level, faster, as fast as him? Are we looking at people that are aspiring to get in? What kind of runners is this race trying to attract?
So, from a South African point of view, we're obviously looking at the best of the best. Elroy Galan, Stephen Makoka, Sibusiso Nzima, I mentioned him, Gladwin Mzazi, Desmond Makubu, the list is endless. So those guys they've also always been invited in to the Cape Town 12, as well as the Joburg 10.
Yes.
Namakun Kasi from Lesotho, who of course showed them a clean pair of heels last year at the Joburg 10. And he is from Lesotho, but he's a class act. Namaku would be looking at him, but we're also looking at international athletes, Kenyans, etc., etc.
Okay. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. Sounds like we hopefully will get a really fast time, the fastest in the world for 2017, and that it grows and becomes one of those key dates on the eventing calendar.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, Manfred. It's a pity we couldn't speak to the founder. I do hope that you're able to bring us some of his thoughts the next time we speak. To be quite interesting to see what he's got to say about his own race.
Will do, absolute pleasure.
Thank you. There we have it. Manfred Saylor talking about the 10K Durban City Surf Run. I was going to say fun run. Looked like a lot of fun. But the City Surf Run that's going to be run in Durban in October should be lots of fun, should have really fast times. Now, to close the show, we've got Fade performing his single, Make It Clear. From his art is Freedom AP. Until next week, the Signing Sin.
Let me make it clear, I'm the only young king that you see around here. Let me make it clear. Let me make it clear. Let me make it clear. I'm the only young king that you see around here. I'ma break it down in case you people didn't know. I do not have no competition on the microphone. With the flows, I'm like that time of the month. Because the pen bleeds when I rap, period. Don't get me wrong, I'm not the only one who got bars. I acknowledge you, but either way, I murder you. I remember grade 9 taking rappers up with freestyles. Young killer, don't nobody do it better. Plus, I'm only getting better.